In the depths of the roaring 20s, a quiet coastal town clings to the edge of the Massachusetts coast, shrouded in ominous tales and whispered rumours. Welcome to Innsmouth, a place veiled in shadows and secrets, where the line between sanity and madness is as fragile as the crumbling cliffs that overlook the churning sea. Once a bustling fishing community, Innsmouth languishes in decay, its dilapidated buildings bearing witness to the passage of time and the eerie transformation that has taken hold. But behind the worn facades, the ever-present fog, a darker truth lurks, a truth that defies human comprehension and threatens to unleash unspeakable horrors upon an unsuspecting world. This is 1928, Fall of Innsmouth, a campaign of psychological and eldritch horror using the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition rules by Chaosium, and based on the stories of H.P. Lovecraft. The Call of Cthulhu role-playing game is written by Sandy Peterson with later revisions by Lynn Willis. The 7th edition is a collaboration between Paul Fricker and Mike Mason. Music used in this podcast is by Vivek Abhishek, Kevin MacLeod, and Ghoulish Grin Films. Welcome back, everyone. Cthulhu is calling. He probably won't appear in this campaign, but he's calling, and you must answer the call, as this is Call of Cthulhu. I am, as ever, your not-so-benevolent keeper, and I welcome you once again to the world of eldritch horror. Good luck. This is part 2 of Old Acquaintance, and when we last left off, you were all bedding down for the night in Willie Harden's decrepit old farmhouse on the outskirts of Innsmouth.
So we're just not going to correct that name at all. We're just going to keep going with Willie Harden.
I'm going to keep it consistent, and he can weather the slings and arrows.
Excellent. Okay.
So, you did, well, Baxter at least, thought that the best thing to do would be to get him in the car and get him back to Arkham, brave Innsmouth in the dead of night, but the rest of the group didn't really jibe with that idea, so you decided you would spend the night here. Keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary, and at first light, scramble for Arkham. So, you decided to take a lot of precautions. Smythe and Boothby laid out some bear traps around the perimeter of the farmhouse, and you elected to stay up through the night, taking shifts on watch. Smythe took the first, and he stayed awake till just shy of midnight when he roused Baxter. Nothing of note happened that Smythe was able to notice. And as it went for Baxter, Baxter did his watch for 4 hours, and just shy of 3:45 in the morning, he decided to rouse the next person on the list, Willie himself, bedding down for a few hours' sleep. And so, as Willie himself takes his shift, seems things are going well. The night has passed uneventfully so far. But as the sky outside turns red with the rising sun, I would like everybody to make a listen roll, please.
That is a regular success for Baxter.
Regular success for Baxter. Lovely.
Regular success for Boothby.
Regular success for Boothby.
It's a fail for Hamish.
Well, Hamish was sharing his bottle with Willie last night, and, he's a middle-aged Scottish guy. He probably sleeps very deeply. Smile.
True.
That is a fail for Lord Innsmouth, I'm afraid.
And Connie.
That is a fail for Connie as well.
So, Boothby and Baxter, you're both shaken awake. You wake to the clatter and thud of boxes falling over in the kitchen just outside the room where you're bedded up. This is followed by heavy footfalls which slowly approach the door to your room, and the sound of more boxes toppling over. Something heavy slams against your door and then falls to the floor outside it. And then all is quiet.
Baxter's going to raise the others.
Yeah.
Go around shaking everybody.
Shakes everyone awake. Does Hamish awaken in any particularly interesting way?
Hamish is shockingly shockingly not fucked up for how much booze that he drank last night, which I thought isn't that much for what it's worth.
Isn't that much. Nothing.
He can hold his liquor, and he's not hungover. He's fine.
More concerned about bedding down here for the night after that harrowing trip through Innsmouth. The fact that he's not waking up screaming when Baxter's violently shaking him awake is a testament to his composure, I think. Boothby shakes Connie and Smythe awake, and in hushed tones points to the door and says, "Noises out there. A thud, a thump."
Well, someone ought to go check that.
I am on it.
I'll cover you. But Smythe readies his Webley.
Smythe readies his weapon as Hamish creeps towards the door. And Hamish, I would like you to make a send check for me as you open the door.
Good. Let's see. It's a. Ooh, that's a hard pass.
Hard pass. Alright, you only lose one sen. As you steel yourself and force the door open, and on the other side you see Willie Harden lies on the floor, trying to prop himself up on his left arm as his right arm hangs uselessly from his side. His face, or at least the portion of his face that isn't charred black from phosphorus, has begun to swell, his pallor turning a deep purple. His right eye is swollen to a point that it's barely visible underneath the puffy purple skin. He slowly opens his mouth as if to speak, but only a raspy breath can escape. His tongue lolls motionless in his mouth, as if it's paralyzed.
Lord!
He sees you standing there and gasps as he reaches out his one good hand. Can't breathe!
Okay, I think he would, okay. How would a 1920s man on an impulse try to help somebody who can't breathe?
Well, how much skill do you have in first aid?
Let's see, just base 30%. Let me roll on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
He passes.
He passes. So, Hamish, you've got some basic first aid training, and it's clear that whatever happened to Willie, he is suffocating. He can't breathe. He's spluttering for breath. And so you do the only thing you know how to do. Your instincts kick in and you rush forwards and you pull him down to the floor and begin to administer CPR, breathing into his mouth, what remains of it at least, and then pumping his chest. He continues spluttering. And after a few moments, he coughs. And murky black water spills forth from his mouth, splashing over his clothes and pooling on the floorboards. He coughs some more. Continues gasping for breath, but now he seems to be able at least to draw some oxygen each time he breathes. You can hear something inside him waterlogged.
Hamish is very impressive for someone in the 1920s doing CPR.
Baxter's going to grip his bat very tightly and start exploring the area.
Yeah.
Smythe will move out,
Boothby?
covering him with his revolver.
Yeah.
You say he was waterlogged?
Well, it sounds like he's waterlogged. He tries to draw a breath, and it's almost you can hear like this bubbling somewhere in his throat, like a gurgling, and you're not sure whether it's some injury or, well, to be honest, with your first aid roll a success, I will tell you that it sounds like he's taken a dip in some water. It sounds like you've just barely saved him from drowning, but his farm is on the middle of a big open plain, and there isn't any bodies of water anywhere nearby, not that you saw coming in.
Boothby is gonna, I guess start trying to do some, like, very, hard back pats to see if he can, like, help, Mr. William, ejaculate some of this water.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake!
Phrasing.
Yeah, Boothby. Boothby, go ahead and make for me a
Evacuate.
first aid check of your own. And Connie, what are you doing? I will say, Connie, you're no longer temporarily insane.
Okay.
Who can relate?
Boothby
Yes.
did not succeed.
Yeah, Boothby just sort of stands there, like, patting Willie's shoulder and sort of just whispering, come on, there. And he coughs and splutters, chucking up more putrid, brackish water. He gurgles, Doctor! Please!
I think Boothby, realizing that he is not applying enough pressure in this situation, is going to try to use the butt of his gun to
Oh my
very
god.
quickly strike this man in the back. And,
Is
like,
Hamish
not, like,
seeing
multiple
this?
times.
Yeah, Hamish, you're there. The guy's still in your arms.
What the fuck do you think you're doing?
Trying to help him cough up whatever the fuck he swallowed.
The
With
butt of the gun smacks him in the back of his head, and
What
he
the
lurches
fuck?
forwards. You're trying to hit him on the back, yeah, not the head. Yeah, the butt of the gun smacks him on the back of his shoulder, and he lurches forwards, and sprays black water all over the front of Hamish's clothes. He then sinks to the floorboards and lets out a deep breath, seeming to rattle, seeming to shake in your hands, Hamish, as he does so. You can still hear that sickly gurgling. He seems to be living on borrowed time, and once again he looks up at you and vocalizes the word, "Doctor! In town! The doctor!
You're kidding me.
I can direct..."
Look,
somewhere
bud,
from down the hall, you hear Baxter, "I told you, we should have gone to town. Should have gone to town."
we can't go to town now after we heard whatever the fuck that goes bump in the night out there. We're gonna get killed.
Splutters harden. And it's pretty obvious, at least to you, Hamish, that you've done all you can for him, and he needs medical attention from a professional. And even then, you're not entirely sure he's gonna pull through whatever has happened to him. He's struggling. Every breath he takes is laboured, waterlogged. Seems to be taking a great deal of effort, and it's only a matter of time before he just succumbs. But maybe if he gets medical attention, he might pull through.
Look, if we don't go, he dies. It's simple as that.
How old is Mr. William?
He's about... How old are you, Smythe?
I'm 49.
Yeah, so he's about
I
49 himself.
Look, his time's basically up already.
Bro.
We gotta start thinking about ourselves here.
We're gonna worry about the economy.
You're fond of compassion.
But clearly there is something outside that is trying to...
If you wish to take your roadster and go alone, by all means proceed. I'm going to help this man find a doctor.
No, I'm staying right here in the house that is not infested with any monster or ghoulie or whatever.
So,
right.
What?
Yet.
Baxter, you're creeping around the house. I'll ask you to make a spot hidden check as you pass one of the windows.
Thankfully, Baxter is good at spotting hidden things. Uh, 43. That is a regular success.
So as you pass by one of the windows, Baxter, something catches your attention, peering through the grimy, muck-encrusted glass. You see one of Smythe's bear traps, about 10-20 feet from the house itself in the undergrowth, and it appears to have snapped shut. And you can see what appears to be a blue piece of fabric caught in the bear trap, and you can see the teeth on the bear trap stained in some dark liquid. It's a bit too dark to be blood, a bit too black, but it's clearly some organic material. And a couple of feet from the bear trap, you can see Willie's sawn-off shotgun lying discarded in the undergrowth, and you can see a couple of spent shell casings lying next to it, as if he'd fired it in a fit of panic, but wasn't quite fast enough to hit what he was aiming at.
We didn't hear the shotgun going off, did we?
You didn't, no.
Oh, that's really strange.
What woke you was him stumbling into the house.
I think Baxter's going to use his private eye detective skills to come to the conclusion that Willie probably didn't fall shoulder first into a bear trap.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely. So whatever it is probably still out there.
You're a genius.
He's very, very attuned to these sorts of things. You wouldn't understand.
Like
he's
a simple priest like me.
He's going to head
This
back
is
inside after grabbing the shotgun and alert everybody.
So you're gonna head outside, pick up the shotgun? Because you saw this through the window. Yep.
Oh, I saw through the window. Oh,
yeah.
fuck that then. No, he's going to go back up to the group.
Yeah, so you return to the group and you announce your findings just as Smythe and Boothby are coming to a head about what to do with Willie and whether it's safe to leave the house. And Boothby, Smythe, Baxter points towards the window and with a solemn face he tells you something's tripped one of the traps. Willie's dropped his shotgun, and whatever it was is probably still out there.
All right. Somebody shoulder Willie if you can, please. I'll lead the way. Cover me, if you will. We'll get to
I
the
don't know.
cars.
It's kind of a big welly. It might be kind of hard to.
Bruh.
Mr. Boothby, you are the epitome of low-hanging fruit.
Hardin himself is barely conscious at this point, just gurgling the word, Doctor, in town, Doctor. And
there,
thankfully
William.
doesn't register Boothby's slight at his name.
Blame his parents. Don't blame me.
So who's going to
Honestly,
shoulder
he's
him?
had
There's no
worse
time for
better.
dicking around, okay?
Who's going to shoulder him, and who's going to be the lookout on this escort?
Definitely Hamish be like helping carry.
He is a big guy,
He's
though.
a strong lad.
So you'll probably need to brace him between two of you. So, Hamish, you hoist him up and brace him on your right shoulder, and then who's gonna pick up the slack?
Baxter will help out.
Baxter rushes forwards, braces him between the two of them, and you begin to guide him towards the front door where Smythe and Boothby and Connie are waiting. And before you step through that door, Smythe, Boothby, and Connie, are there any specific preparations you are making?
Well, the revolver's out. I'm going to plan to move through fast and head to the right in case there's something above the door. Learned this trick from a tiger that ate one of my bearers. Aside from that, I can't think of anything.
How about you, Boothby? Is your gun drawn?
Yeah, he is like clutching his gun to his chest, like very nervously.
Quietly as he can. Connie, you don't have a weapon, so I suppose you're just sort of hanging behind Boothby and Smythe, I guess.
I think at this point maybe she'd like look at the kitchen, just see if there's like a butcher's knife or something, just so she has something she could use. Like,
Make a luck check for me, please.
yeah. My luck is not great at the moment.
What a fun stat luck is. Like mechanically.
I like
it's
it.
really fun.
It is fun.
I agree. Wish I had more of it.
Yeah, no.
You look around in the kitchen, and the kitchen's covered in dust. It doesn't look like Willie's actually been using it in the time he's lived here. You pull open a couple of the drawers, find them empty, pull open the cupboards, and there's not even a single plate or anything that you could potentially smash and use as a weapon. So instead, you decide to just stay behind Boothby and Smythe as Smythe creeps forwards, unlatches the door, and pushes it open, flooding the little cabin with the dull grey morning light. And then you step outside. Smythe and Boothby first, then Connie, with Baxter and Hamish bringing up the rear, with the semi-conscious Willie Hardin braced between them, his head lolling from left to right, still gurgling. And as you make your way down off the patio and begin to cross the overgrown yard towards your vehicles, I would like Smythe, Connie and Boothby to make spot hidden checks for me, please.
Let's see, what did I even put in that? Not much, my eyesight's not great.
Boothby's not seeing shit.
I could get lucky, one never knows.
Boothby's attention is securely focused on the roadster, which is a
But
couple
not
yards
today.
ahead.
That's a fail.
Yeah, so Boothby and Smythe, your attention is firmly focused on the vehicles. You're making sure the path between here and there is clear and nothing much else. You've got a job to do. Connie, how about you?
Managed to get a regular success.
Regular success. But Connie, you don't have a weapon. You're not looking for threats. You're keeping a general eye on the situation, and you spot something that the others miss. The first thing you see is what Baxter saw through the window. The single bear trap snapped shut. A piece of, from here, what you can tell looks like denim. Flapping in the teeth, flapping in the wind, and the teeth are coated in a dark brown, almost blackish substance. What you would imagine to be blood. It seems to have the consistency of blood and pools around the bear trap in much the same way, but is not the right colour to be blood. And you see something that Baxter couldn't see through the window. A couple of feet from the bear trap itself, there's a square piece of something, perhaps paper or cardboard, bright yellow, lying between two blades of grass, dropped here.
Roughly how far would it be from from us?
You'd have to branch off from the group. You'd have to go off the path.
Yeah. What was it? I'm trying to remember. What was the condition like outside? I can't remember if it was foggy in that, or was that just in the city?
That was in the town. The fog seems to have cleared here. There's still fog, you peer
Around.
past the vehicles, and around the edges of the property you can see the fog closing in. But here on the property itself, it's not so thick that you can't see directly in front of you.
Are you bringing it to our attention?
Yeah, just find out. Just like, there's something by the bear trap.
I see. I will step out carefully, keeping in mind where we put the bear traps last night, and go get it.
You creep closer, Smythe, your pistol still brandished, ready for threats. And you step up to the bear trap. You can tell right up close that that piece of fabric is definitely a piece of denim, or like a scrap of workman's overalls. It's got the same colour and consistency that you'd expect from a set of workman's. Like yeah, smells like pour. Down and wrap your fingers around the yellow piece of cardboard that's lying half crumpled in the dirt. Pull it up and flip it over. And I'm going to put it up in Owlbear Rodeo for you. Your eyes light up as you see the picture on this fishing license. You see a man with great bulging eyes, bulbous in his face. The clear visage of someone tainted with deep won blood. This is a fishing license made out to someone by the name of Harris Jakes. Their address is listed as something. The number is faded away. Main Street, Innsmouth, Massachusetts.
I only glance at it for a second before backing toward the group.
As you back
Rejoining them.
towards the group, I'll ask you what your spot hidden is.
My spot hidden is only at 25.
25. And so, as you return to the others, you fail to notice a couple of feet beyond the bear trap, hidden in a particularly overgrown patch of grass and foliage, a puddle of bubbling black ooze. You catch a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye and whirl around just in time to see something dark, something small hurtling itself through the air towards you. Go ahead, Smythe, and make me a dodge check.
Well, this could be it. This might be it. Let's see. My dodge is I actually put a good amount into it, but not that much. My dodge is a 58, but I rolled a 74.
74. Would you like to push that?
You know what? Sure.
Surely Smythe won't go down to a man named Harris.
Yeah, Harris Jakes.
The fakest
Four.
possible name. I love it.
There we are. 26.
26.
That is a hard success.
And it rolled a 51, which is just a regular success on its fighting. Your instincts from the war kick in, and you immediately jump back, whirling around, brandishing your revolver as the faceless black glob of something flies through the air, flies through the space where your head was only a fraction of a second ago, and then lands right in front of the bear trap, pooling in front of it in a big pile of roiling goo. It lets out a long hissing sound as its surface begins to bubble, and before your eyes it breaks down into a fine ash-like powder.
I have no idea what that was, and I think it's time to leave this place quickly.
Yeah. I will ask you to make a send check, please.
That sounds about right. That is a 62, which is a success.
So that will be a sand loss of 1d3.
Old Smythe is understandably a bit disturbed about something that doesn't look like it bleeds. How can he kill it if it doesn't bleed? Only one.
In your paranoia, before you return to the others, you quickly peer over at the direction where the thing came flying from, and there you see it, in the grass. Black scorch marks, more of the fine black ash that this thing collapsed into, and lying next to it, Willie Harden's handheld lantern, lying on its side, the glass broken, kerosene pooled around it.
Strange. That thing that almost ate my face, does it smell of kerosene?
You kneel down, sniff it, and no. In fact, it smells rather like, well, slightly rank meat.
I don't know what this was. We should get a move on.
Return to the others, the fishing license clutched in your hand, and they've reached the vehicles by now. Baxter and Hamish, carefully helping Harden into which vehicle, the truck or the roadster?
Well, Colin's getting the truck started.
Yeah, Colin's in the front seat already. You can hear the engine spluttering. Brrr, brrr. Come on! Get him in! Get him in! We'll get out of here! Hurry! Hurry! He calls.
He needs to direct Colin, put him on the front. I'll take the back. Anyone's welcome to ride with me. Boothby, you'll probably want to drive your own roadster, I assume.
Hamish
naturally stays with William.
With William, yep. You help him into the passenger seat in the cab of the truck next to Colin, who's got his hands gripped on the wheel and they're shaking, and he looks at you as you help Colin into the cab, and he just says, "Oh, things are getting exciting, aren't they? Oh, Lord Smythe will show him what for, he will. Just like Mr. Boothby's books, innit?" Baxter and Hamish then join Smythe in the back seat of the truck. Boothby... yep, where are you going?
Miss Connie, this was hard won. He passes the card over to Connie. Perhaps he can make something of it.
Connie, as he hands you the card,
okay.
I'd like you to go ahead and make for me either an education check or an accounting check.
It's going to be education. Yeah, I'm going to push that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'll make it a regular success.
Regular success. You peer down at it and you come to the same conclusion as Smythe, that the picture on the card, presumably of Harris Jakes, is somebody of Innsmouth stock. He's got that look in his face, that mean streak in his eyes, bulbous cheeks, pallid flesh on his face. He's not a full deep one, not like the things you saw in that cave on the beach, but he's not far off. More important to you is the information on the license itself. It appears that it was issued only fairly recently. June of 1926. Less than a couple of months ago. It was only recently applied for, and... Well, you don't know a lot about fishing licenses, Connie, as you've never really... It's never been part of your grift to pose as a fisherman, but it seems obvious to you that the person who this license was issued to probably doesn't actually have need of this license, and it's only been applied for recently to serve as some sort of scrupulous purpose. You wouldn't imagine a fisherman would be applying for a fishing license in June. It's not the time of year when these things are usually sorted. That's usually happens towards the start or the end of the year. And then, Connie, do you join Hamish, Smythe, and Baxter in the truck, or will you ride with Boothby in his roadster? Because I presume Boothby's not leaving that behind.
He's not. I do have a question, though. Could we even all fit into the truck?
No, I would say you probably couldn't. At least one of you would have to take the roadster. Now that you've got Willie in the cab there, I mean, some of you could probably ride in the back of the truck in the bed, but
Yeah, I'm not
That's
doing
my
that.
plan.
You can have fun with that one.
Indeed, I shall.
Boothby's
I'm
already
limbering the rifle.
behind. You limber the rifle in the bed of the truck, and Boothby's already behind the wheel of his vehicle. He looks over at Connie as if asking her if she's going to join him in luxury or slum it in the bed of the truck.
I think at the moment she'd choose the road, so yeah.
She slides into the passenger seat next to Boothby, pulls the door shut, and then the engines roar to life as the two vehicles begin to make their way down the dirt trail, through the farmyard, and back onto the main road that leads into Innsmouth itself. Oh, you did not plan to be passing through Innsmouth again so soon, and sure enough, as you draw nearer to the town, the fog begins to roll in from the coast, begins to press in around you, and soon you can barely see more than a couple of feet ahead of the vehicles as they slowly make their way down Martin Street into the ramshackle, dying seaside town. Down by the river, southern residential district. Coughs Willie. Bates Street. As his hand, shaking feebly, points in the general vicinity of where this doctor is supposed to be. Smythe, I would like you to go ahead and make a navigate check while Boothby makes a drive check for me. We'll see just how fast you manage to get
Oh, Lord.
to this doctor.
Can I roll on first aid again just to try and do some
Yeah,
upkeep?
stabilize him. Yeah, go ahead.
That's a pass again. That's a pass?
Yep, pass, yep. I'm just waiting to hear the others.
Right, sorry.
Wow. I rolled a 4. That's a success.
Ooh, yeah, alright.
That's a
And
hard
Boothby?
success.
Failed.
Is that
I'm
a
not
crit
doing
success?
That's definitely a crit success. And Boothby, you don't have to push because the navigate roll that Smythe made should cover you. I'm presuming you're just following the truck.
Yeah.
So, in the cabin of the truck, Hamish is leaning over the poor, spluttering man, resting his hand on his chest, pumping. Come on, you can pull in there, lad. Pull through, lad. You hold on. You don't die on me here. And somehow you seem to keep him stable enough that he's able to remain in a coherent state, remain lucid enough to direct you through the town as Smythe points to Colin. Take that, turn off there, that side street there, that should take us down past the river. And unlike the last time you went through Innsmouth, you pass by a couple of pedestrians on the street. Only a few. Only a handful. The few you pass by seem to take no notice of your vehicles as they speed through Innsmouth, and nor do they react when you reach your destination. An ivy-covered house in a yard full of weeds, located just south of the river that bisects the town. The ramshackle collection of passers-by on the street make no sign of interest at all as you pull up on the driveway in front of the ivy-covered house. Brace Willie between Hamish and Baxter's shoulders again and help him up the path towards the house. You make your way up the patio and are face to face with a thick wooden door. You wonder at first why Willie has guided you here of all places, and then you see it, a shingle blowing in the wind, creaking as it swings with the word Doctor faded, painted on the wood. There is a little sign next to the door that says, "Please knock for assistance."
Hamish knocks hurriedly.
You rap on the door, and seemingly instantaneously, the door is flung open, and on the other side is an old man with long grey hair and gold-framed spectacles. His eyes go wide, his mouth drops open as he takes in the horrific sight of Willie leaning on your shoulder, and then he says, his lips pursed in a grim voice, "Bring him in! Bring him in!" Steps aside, letting you through the threshold, and you help Willie into the house. As you help him in, the doctor pauses just long enough to introduce himself. "I'm Dr. Bloom," he says. "I'm the only doctor here in Innsmouth, and looks like you got to me just in time. Look, help him into the examination room. Follow me," he says, as he leads you past what looks like an ordinary living room / den that you'd expect to see in anyone's house, and into the examination room. It's what used to be the house's kitchen. It's been refurbished. The cupboards are being used to store medicine. The sink is being used to wash and clean instruments, and a single bed with very clean white sheets rests against one of the cracked tiled walls. He gestures towards the bed, and you help Willie down onto the mattress, and as soon as he's on the mattress, he coughs and splutters once more, spraying brackish water over the kitchen tiles. "I'll get to work immediately," says Dr. Bloom. He gestures towards the living room. "Just wait out there, I won't be long. And if God smiles on us, perhaps your friend will be joining you soon." And then with a grim look on his face, he kneels over Willie and gets to work. What do you do?
Hamish would say a few prayers for him. Just silently.
Silently. Everyone else?
I'm going to the waiting room, pulling out a meerschaum pipe and lighting it. It's been a stressful morning. Colin, see if you can find a kettle. Get us a couple, would you, please?
Colin looks around. "Oi, but the kitchen's the exam room, and..." "Oh, I see." He sees another doorway that leads off ostensibly towards a bathroom. He says, "Oh, check in there," and he darts away. Baxter, Boothby, Connie, do you join Smythe in the waiting room?
Baxter initially is going to be looking over at what the doctor is doing. He's rather suspicious of this town at this point.
Yeah, very good idea. Baxter, I'd like you to go ahead and make for me a first aid or a medicine check.
Yeah, Boothby's
First aid.
And Boothby, what are you doing?
Try to, subtly poke around, but still poke around where he's looking for anything out of the ordinary.
In the exam room while the doctor's working on Willie, or just in the house in general?
He's just kind of gonna be, pacing around, kind of trying to get to as many rooms as he can without looking suspicious about it.
Sure enough. You can do that. Go ahead, Boothby. I'd like you to make a stealth check for me. Or sneak, rather, as it's called in this game. Oh, no, it is stealth. No, I'm thinking of an older edition. And Connie, what are you doing?
I think she's gonna go wait in the waiting room. I thought, yeah, that's all getting a bit much. But she's sort of pacing around, maybe just like unconsciously like keeping an eye on like the door or if there are any windows. Like just she's still paranoid though.
Connie, what's your occult skill?
It's 25 at the moment.
25. Right. So, Connie, as you're pacing around the waiting room, you briefly peer out of one of the windows out onto the street, and there in the fog you can make out the shapes of a couple of figures just stopping on the side of the street, standing in front of your vehicles. Their gaze lingers on the doctor's office for a moment, and then they turn away and fade into the white haze. The waiting room itself is apportioned in such a way that suggests to you that the doctor doesn't have a lot of business. There's a single recliner in one corner and a leather couch on the wall opposite. There's a big bookshelf opposite the front door, and Connie, you notice that this bookshelf is filled with books with... Well, you would expect to find books about medicine in a doctor's office, but these books have all sorts of esoteric titles, such as Magic's Most Foul and medicine and medicinal rituals of the ancients.
Baxter rolled an 18, by the way.
Yep. And how did you do, Boothby?
Passed.
So, Baxter, you linger for a moment as Hamish continues his prayers, his hands folded, his eyes closed, and you peer over the doctor's shoulder, and in spite of the situation you're in, you allow yourself to breathe a small sigh of relief as it appears the doctor is doing an earnest job trying to relieve Harden of his suffering. He's not administering him with any strange chemicals or applying any instruments or anything like that. He's pressing his hands down on Harden's chest, much in the same way that Hamish was before, occasionally stopping to press his ear against Harden's chest, asking him to breathe in and out, and muttering to himself, some kind of obstruction, and how can I flush it? And he then notices that you and Hamish are still in the room, and he says, I understand you're very concerned, my friends, but your friend is in good hands. I'm doing the best I can, but please, I work best without prying eyes.
Baxter will silently exit the room.
Hamish, you as well?
Yeah.
Return to the others. And Connie, do you make note of these strange books?
At this point, she's like, yeah, definitely like gone over and is like having a closer look at like all the odd titles and like.
So I'll get you to roll occult for me, Connie. And Boothby rejoins the others in the waiting room only briefly before he follows Colin through one of the other doors. You pass by Colin in a very grimy bathroom where he appears to be trying his best to fill a kettle covered in scorch marks in the bathroom sink. You pass him by, Boothby, and find another door that seems to lead into the doctor's bedroom. You slowly push it open and it creaks, admitting you to a room that's fairly sparsely furnished. There's a single bed with threadbare bed coverings and a writing desk. The lid is pulled down over it, and there's a little silver padlock ensuring that anyone who enters the room can't just pull it open and pry.
How secure does it seem? Like, does it seem like a good quality lock? Are we talking like master
Not at all,
lock?
Boothby. It's certainly not one that was bought at a Boothby's. It looks quite old, actually.
Can I just... Boothby's just gonna grab it and try, like, just to pull down really hard, like, once to see if it'll just pop open.
Alright, Boothby, go ahead and make a strength check for me.
I got a 4 against 50, so...
Yeah.
Hmm.
You grasp a hand around the padlock and yank, and clunk! It comes loose, much easier than you expected it to. You slide open the desk and find sheets upon sheets of paper that appear to be order forms for all kinds of fairly routine drugs, morphine, cocaine, various types of ointments and tablets for neuralgia and other common ailments, but among them there is a bizarre collection of grimy photographs of a man with a very clear Innsmouth look, the same bulbous facial features, the narrow, mean eyes, wearing a blue fisherman... Well, it's not blue because there's no coloured photos, but wearing a set of workers' overalls that you imagine would be quite similar to those that the piece of fabric on the bear trap was from. In all of the photos, he seems to be either posing in front of fishing gear or inside a boat on the harbour, and the majority of the photographs look like they were taken without the man's knowledge. You flip over one of the photographs and find very messy handwriting on the back indicating that the doctor wrote it, that simply reads, "I know it's him." Meanwhile, Connie, how did you do on your occult roll?
So I had to burn 10 luck, but made it a success.
So, Connie, you're going through the books, and you don't really have time to read any of them in detail. You pull a couple out of the shelf, begin flipping through them, and realize that a common theme among these books appears to be the topic of drowning. Folklore about creatures that entice sailors into the sea, luring them to their watery deaths. Ancient native spirits that drag people into bodies of water. Various urban legends about people being found far from bodies of water, but waterlogged as if they'd just emerged from the ocean, washed up on the beach. And in addition, several of these books seem to cover magical rituals, good luck charms, and talismans that are designed to ward against these water spirits, sirens, naiads, and the like.
Oh. I guess it's just... As she's like flicking through one of the books, she'll just turn back to whoever else is in the waiting area and just... Oh well, it seems this doctor is quite versed in drowning.
That's handy. I wonder if Arden was coherent enough to keep that in mind.
After a few moments, Boothby emerges from the door opposite where you're sitting, followed by Colin, and Colin immediately rushes over to Smythe, and he says, I found a kettle, but I don't think I've got not anywhere I can get it boiling. I can't stove, he says. shrugging and holding you the kettle that seems to be half full with brackish bathroom water.
You've done your best. Once Harden is through it or not, we'll see if we can find a stove in the vicinity.
Boothby, do you reveal to the others what you just found?
Sorry, I'm muted. Boothby took the picture and like slipped it into his jacket. I hate to say it. I think Boothby would go to Baxter and show him. Baxter seems like the most like level-headed. He would never say that out loud though.
So
That's
Baxter,
gay.
Boothby pulls you aside.
It is gay.
And he shows you the picture that he found in the doctor's bedroom, and you instantly recognize the look of someone with deep one blood. A fisherman, by the looks of him, and that ominous message written by the doctor on the back. I know it's him. You didn't get a good look at the cards that Smythe found Baxter while Connie was looking over it, but you got a glimpse of it, and you're pretty certain that the man depicted in this picture is the same man whose picture is on that fishing license.
Yeah, Baxter's going to just openly express that connection he made.
Smythe?
Not so openly that the doctor could hear, but...
Yeah, but doctor's still in the other room, so... So what do you think, Baxter? What's your appraisal?
That there could be some connection between the two.
Yeah. So Baxter loudly announces to the waiting room that this fisherman is obviously connected to the doctor. In what capacity, he doesn't quite know, but it's obvious that it wasn't a coincidence that you found his fishing license at the scene of the crime, as it were.
We should bring this to the doctor's attention when he's finished.
Yeah, spending our time seems to be the best course of action.
This ends one way or the other. When Smythe checks his pocket watch.
It's been about 15, nearly 20 minutes since you were ushered out of the waiting room, and at this point, you hear the creak of the door, and you look up as Dr. Bloom steps out of the examination room, his eyes haggard under his gold-rimmed spectacles, but his face seemingly calm, relieved. He lets out a deep exhale. Well, your friend should be okay, he says. Looks like you got him here in the nick of time. A couple minutes more, and, well, he didn't have a lot of breath left to give. I managed to flush the water out of his system. Now he just needs to rest, and he looks around, he says, which of you, stabilized him?
That'd be... Yeah, that's me.
Aye, Father, you did a fine enough job, he says. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear you were trained, but whatever you did, it was enough to keep him on the threshold between life and death just long enough for him to get proper help. I'll let him rest up here for a day or two, and then I'll discharge him. I would not recommend he be up and about right now. He seems to have exerted himself quite a lot. And I fear if he were to overdo it, his heart might just give in.
So there's no way to move him then.
I would not expect. He stops for a moment, and you see his eyes drift to the window that looks out onto the street. His gaze lingers for a moment, and then he looks back at you, and he lowers his voice. You must get him out of Innsmouth as soon as you can, you understand?
Is he turning into any Boothby kind of makes like a fin-like motion with his hands on the side of his head.
The doctor just loudly guffaws. oh, no, not at all. But, well, I suspect he may be in danger. Whoever did this might learn that he's here and come back to finish the job, as it were. But he is most certainly in no condition to be moved. That's the conundrum we're dealing with.
Fortunately, we have an idea of who did this to him. If we strike first, we may be able to forestall a broader revenge. Show him the card, would you?
Connie, do you show him the card?
Alright, I've got it, don't I? I suppose you would, yeah.
You hand him the card. He takes it, and he peers down at it, and instantly his old face wrinkles in anger. He hands it back to you, and he says, I was about to finger the man myself. Harris Jakes and his friend Sandy Lanier, two partner fishermen. Few years back, we had some problems down by the harbor, and 3 of the fishermen who lived down there died. Now, the only connection between the men was that shortly before each died, he'd had a run-in with Harris Jakes or Sandy Lanier. In one case, the pair were accused of holding a net. Another was about the theft of some beer. No matter what it was about, anybody who crossed them seemed to come up dead. And the law didn't care. The authorities in this town don't care. A few dead fishermen just meant a few less drunks to roust the next day. Now, I've no idea how your friend would have met Jakes and Lanier, but I reckon he had a run-in with them, and... well, you got his address right there on the card. You can head down a main street near the harbor, and, well... maybe you can question him yourself. I wouldn't advise moving your friend, but I would advise doing whatever you can to ensure whoever did this to him isn't going to finish the job. Let him rest at least for another day, and then you can be well on your way.
Do you have a stove by any chance?
Stove! Oh, sure! He thumbs over his shoulder towards the examination room. You'll want to remove the partitions at the back there. I have a stove there. Haven't used it in quite some time. He notices Colin holding the kettle, and he says, you mean to make us a cup of tea? Very well, Mr. Englishman. You have my permission to use the stove.
Thank you.
Now,
might as well be civilized about it.
I am a doctor, of course, and I'm bound by oath to report what is very obviously attempted murder to the authorities. So, when you leave here, I'm going to place a call to the constabulary and alert them as to what has happened, but I won't do it until you leave. Do you understand?
Yes. Should we return in a day, or is this place a safe haven?
Well, I wouldn't advise hanging around here. Out-of-towners with their truck and car, especially that fancy one that you there, he looks at Mr. Boothby, drives, well, that'll draw attention, and we want to make sure that Jakes and Lanier don't realize your friend is recovering here until the last possible moment. Now, I know the authorities here in Innsmouth, and I know they ain't gonna do a thing. I've been here near 40 years, and I know how this town works. But I got a guy in the constabulary. Constable Nathan Birch. And he's had it in for Jakes and Lanier as long as I have. And all I do is gotta drop their names, and he'll be out on patrol looking for 'em. So I figure with the law hounding him, and with you sniffing around, maybe we might be able to distract them from your friend long enough that he's able to get at least recovered enough that he can walk out of here. I'll tell you one thing, though. He leans in once again, and he frowns. I've been practicing medicine, and all the time I've been here, and I treated every kind of sickness you can catch in this town. But there's only been a few times when I've seen this condition before. A man drowning, only there ain't no water for him to be drowning in. I don't know how they did it. But I'll bet it's something ain't normal.
Who's they?
Now, Jakes and Lanier, of course, he says. Or, well, don't know how much you know about Innsmouth, son, but a lot of strange people in this town. Most of them connected to that church, and well, us normal folk, we don't have much to do with them. We don't deal with them when we can all help it, but everyone knows, what they say, that you cross the people at the temple and, bad things happen to you.
So
Yes,
it's
actually-
not just
order, I assume.
2 people. It's an
Actually,
entire
that
church.
reminds me. Yeah, it could be the whole church. That reminds me, Dr. Bloom says. Your friend had this on his person. Fell out of his coat while I was maneuvering him on the table. I figure he might like you to keep a hold of it for him. He reaches into his doctor's coat and extracts a very weathered-looking, leather-bound book with very yellow pages.
Something we can read through over tea. And then we should depart.
I'll make sure your assistant, is, doing, well, you know how it is. You limeys with your limeys with your special gas stoves. We should just make sure he's not about to set the house on fire. No offense. Boy, don't look that bright.
Colin has many virtues. By all means, please go supervise.
Turns away and steps once more into the examination room, leaving you alone once again. You get the feeling that he's giving you the chance to plan, the chance to discuss what you're going to do next when he's conveniently out of the room, and as such won't know anything that could prove dangerous to him down the line.
Plausible deniability. Love to see it. Well, who'd like to take a go at the journal?
Whoever would like to, I would ask to make an own language check.
Hamish has got education 70. No specialty beyond that. But he also does know Latin.
Yeah. Alright, Hamish, go ahead and roll it as Smythe hands the little decrepit book to you.
Ooh, I failed on a push. I'm going to spend 5 luck on that.
5 luck. So, the good news is that there isn't any Latin in the book, but the
Oh, real
hand...
quick, sorry.
Yep.
My sheet has lost my luck. What? How do you calculate the starting luck again?
It's just 3d6 times 5.
Okay, that's unfortunate. I don't think I spent anything yesterday, so last game.
Didn't.
So
You didn't, actually. So,
you go on. I'll calculate that.
Yesterday was
lucky-
20 luck. Okay.
Yeah, you've done well so far. So, luckily, the book doesn't contain any Latin, but Hamish, it's written in a very distinct, very archaic form of cursive. You instantly recognize it. It was the type of cursive that was taught in church schools about 50, 60 years ago. You're vaguely familiar with it. By the time you passed through the system, they were no longer teaching this style of cursive, but you recognize it as it's what your father used to write pretty much everything in. It's a very old-fashioned style, and you're probably the only one here who'd be able to pass it this easily. And so you clear your throat and you begin to read out loud to the others. And I'm going to put a picture of the journal up in Owlbear Rodeo so you can all read along.
You rolled 70 luck, by the way.
70, nice. March 1844. God has blessed me with the fortune to purchase this parcel of land on the edge of Innsmouth, away from the chaos of Arkham or Boston, and on the precipice of a growing fishing village. I think I'll be able to forge a life here. We'll build a farmhouse and work hard to create a legacy for my children and their children. February 1845. The success of the farm has earned me friends and admirers in nearby Innsmouth. Finally, I am experiencing something that has eluded me for most of my life, being part of a community that welcomes and supports me, where every man and woman knows each other and wishes to see the best of each other. I've been spending much of my time with Elizabeth Garrison, the daughter of the local pastor. Whenever I see her, my heart is filled with joy, unlike any I've felt before. October 1845. Just as we planned, Elizabeth and I were wed in mid-fall, after courting openly for 6 months. It warmed both of our hearts to see the townsfolk celebrating with us. Our only regret is that Elizabeth's father could not oversee the ceremony himself. His own church is floundering in the face of Captain Marsh's Order of Dagon, a paganistic faith. Within just months, this upstart faith has seduced almost half of his royal flock. May 1846. A joyous day. Elizabeth bore our first son, Buford, after 12 hours of labour. There was some pressure from Captain Marsh's flock to have him baptised into their order. Thankfully, logic prevailed, as Elizabeth's father ensured he will perform the ceremony himself. It is sad for me to reflect on the fact that we Hardens are some of the only few who reject Marsh's blasphemy. What is your anthropology skill, Hamish?
His is 71.
Yeah. With your anthropology skill, Hamish, it's very clear to you that this journal is an account of religious persecution, essentially, that the Harden family were, at the point where this journal ends, perhaps the last few faithful Christians in Innsmouth, and the rest of the journal goes on to describe how, over time, Captain Marsh and his strange paganistic faith began to put more and more pressure on the family, shunning them at first in a harmless way, but then in ways bordering on dangerous, until eventually, when Buford was only 6 years old, the Harden family decided to abandon their farm and flee Innsmouth, never to return.
I was going to say, I don't think a Scottish Catholic would need an anthropology experience to understand the experience of religious persecution. But yeah, got it.
Thoughts as Hamish finishes recounting Grandfather Harden's tale.
It's interesting to see how they work, but I'm not sure it has much practical application to us at the minute.
At the very least, says Colin, who during the reading emerged with a doctor's instrument tray laden with cups of tea. At the very least, I'd say it's proof that his family ain't got many friends in this town, eh?
I think we're going to have to start operating under the assumption that every person we meet could be with the cult. And if this is the case, we should be very careful, because I have the feeling that it is not just the two individuals that are dangerous, but this, entire church.
Now you're starting to get it. Good lad.
Just like at home on Stratford-upon-Lye, says Colin. You know, everyone's part of the cult there. You know, they do that thing every Saturday where they roll logs down the hill.
Pour the tea, please, Colin.
He portions out a cup of tea for each of you, and then takes a seat in the recliner. And he looks around and he says, "So you really think it's safe to leave Mr. Arden here?"
I don't see much of a choice. If there's one thing I know about the authorities here, in America in general, is that it's far easier to blame outsiders for trouble than it is to get momentum against any church or source of money in a small town.
It's just like your books, innit, Mr. Boothby? It's just like, the case of the Leggy Dane Part 2, you know, when the police were, you know, when they got Detective Phillips and they blamed him for the murder of that dame with the big knockers.
You know, Colin, I'm really proud of you that you can read.
I can read, he says. Granted, I only read Detective Phillips, but I think that's not the point.
Never been addictive. Well, if the doctor's correct in his assumption, the two individuals are the spearhead of the church's enforcers, is the read I'm getting here. Does that match your assumption too, Mr. Baxter?
Yes, I believe that makes complete sense.
So if we go on the offensive and blunt the spearhead, that buys us at least a day. Whereupon we may be able to smuggle Mr. Harden away.
Oh, we got the address on the card, says Colin. We can fancy a drive down to the harbour then, see if we can find Mr. Harris Jakes, if that is his real name. He glares over at Boothby. See, I remember, it's just like the case of the Leggy Dame I said, where the guy had the fake name and all.
Quite.
Of course, that's because they was trying to frame him, so they got a fake name and they left his alias at the scene. It was really that other guy who was revealed at the end of the book, and...
Baxter's gripping his baseball bat like a stress toy.
Lord Smythe gently puts out a hand and lowers it as he sees it, like ready to pound Colin's face in. We're going to need a fallback point. The authorities might go to the farm, so that's out. We'll need a rendezvous point in case we get separated or have to flee the scene. Does anyone have any suggestions? Let's look at the map. Let's look at the map.
Harden's farm is up in the northwest part of town, on Martin Street out in the outskirts. The doctor's office is here, in the southern residential on Bates Street. You know that the Temple of Dagon is somewhere roughly in the vicinity of New Church Green, so you drove through yesterday. It's not that far from the harbour, or indeed Harris Jake's house up on Main Street.
Alright. So... what we're up against, I wouldn't stick around the harbor. We could make a beeline for Hardin's farm if anything goes wrong. There's a chance of running into the constabulary, but, well...
The doctor did say there's at least one member of the constabulary, Nathan Birch, who's got just about as much of a hard-on for Harris Jakes as anyone else, and may be sympathetic to your cause. It would just be pure luck as to whether he's the one who ends up looking into things.
I hate to say it, but Hardin's farm is still our best chance at a safe house. They're unlikely to strike there again. Unless somebody else has an idea. No? Alright. Well, let's go investigate the Main Street address. Those two individuals. Plan to head to the farm afterwards.
All right.
Agreed.
So, once the town centre of prosperity, Innsmouth's harbour is as decayed as the rest of the town. With so little business, a dozen or so shanties have been erected along the harbour's edge. And as the truck and the roadster slowly approach the harbour, the little shanty town, you're eyed warily by the men who call these hovels home, standing on the footpath, sitting on what passes for the front patio of their little shanty towns, just silently watching you as you go past. All but one of them that you could see bear the telltale Innsmouth look. As if to emphasize his isolation from the others, the one poor fisherman who looks the closest to what you would describe as normal sits far away from the others, whittling a piece of wood as he peers beyond your vehicles and into the sea. Park your vehicles on the side of the road, driving as far as the road will take you before it's completely swallowed up by the shanty town. And then as the engines die, all of the fishermen watching you suddenly look away, as if to pretend that they weren't interested in you at all. You step out of your vehicles onto the dirt road, your boots crunching on the gravel, and then what do? You don't actually know where Jakes' house is. The fisherman's license that you have, it simply says Main Street. The number itself is worn away. You think you can make out a 1, but the other 2 numbers are nothing more than smudges at this point. So you might have to do a bit of good old-fashioned detective work.
Lucky for us, we've got a detective.
If this were any other town, I'd start asking questions of the friendly fishermen, but this isn't every other town. If anybody has any bright ideas, bring them up. Otherwise, I'll sort this out.
There's one fisherman over there who doesn't have the look. Could start with him.
Yeah, Baxter looks over and sees who he's referring to. Kind of isolated, lonely, less misshapen fisherman.
You see this one fisherman. He's on his own. He's just sitting there whittling a piece of wood, and as he catches your gaze, he quickly looks away and busies himself intently on his project. He's not exactly what you would call a handsome man, but he's not sporting the bulging eyes and cheeks and pale skin of the other fishermen, and his frame is a lot shorter. He's a very small and scrawny man from where you're standing. He doesn't appear to be eager to talk, though. And he's doing his very best, like all the other fishermen, to pretend he's just not interested in you.
All right, Smythe, with me. Baxter makes his way over to the man, hoping that two of them will be imposing enough that he might want to have a chat.
So, who are you bringing with you, Baxter?
Smythe.
Smythe. All right, I'll ask Smythe and Baxter to both make appearance checks.
All right.
Or, if you want, you can substitute it for intimidate. If you are trying to look imposing after all.
Well, for once, he actually isn't.
So just appearance then.
Yeah, it's a fail from Baxter. He's not very imposing.
Yeah. He is, after all, a tax accountant by day.
Whoa!
That's a 5. That's a critical success for
5.
Smythe.
So glad I brought Smythe with me.
If it were Baxter alone, the man would probably just have ignored you, continued whittling away at the lump of wood in his hand, carving what looks like a figurine. Vaguely feminine by the looks of it. You assume those bumps on its chest are meant to be breasts and are not just lumps in the wood he hasn't dealt with yet. But when Smythe steps up behind Baxter, the hilt of his revolver hanging out of his belt, plainly visible, grim look on his face, the man looks up. He looks around and blinks, and he says, can I help you there, friends?
Yes, we're looking for... Sorry. Do go ahead, Baxter.
No, Smythe can have a go of it if he wants.
All right. We're looking for an address.
So,
Cards.
as you hand him the card, he looks at it. And before he says anything, he looks from left to right. And you follow his gaze as he looks down the street, and you see the other fishermen, the ones with the Innsmouth look, peering over as if they're trying to listen in, and when they catch your gaze, they look away. Connie, Boothby, and Hamish, you're still standing next to the car, and watching Smythe and Baxter, you notice this interaction. It seems fairly obvious that the other fishermen are trying to listen in, and that Baxter and Smythe won't find this chap very helpful while he feels like the others can hear him.
Is it safe to talk?
I'm sorry, I can't be much help, he says. I know Harris Jakes, of course, but, well, none of the fishermen in these parts would ever have a license like this, you know. A true fisherman don't need nothing like that. I think someone's pulling a prank on you, and then what you got there ain't belonging to Mr. Jakes at all.
Baxter speaks slowly. Yes, thank you very much for your time. It appears we must have been mistaken. And under his breath says, "We'll be over by the buildings, in the alleyway over there. Come speak to us when you can."
I'd like you to go ahead and make a persuade check for me, please.
Persuade? Oh,
yes.
Good God, okay.
Persuade. Or you can do a charm.
I'll take a charm. Yeah, that's actually not bad. In that case, that's a pass.
You announce that he's been very helpful. Lean in and whisper your order to him. He doesn't nod. He makes no sign that he's heard you at all. But as you make your way back to the vehicles and rejoin the others, you see the other fishermen once again looking away. Once again, disinterested.
Baxter's going to sidle out the other door of the car quietly and head down the alleyway.
Yeah, Baxter, go ahead and make a stealth check for me.
I'd like to assist him by walking up and down the street as if I were looking for the address and drawing the eyes of the fisherman.
Yeah, so I'll get you to go ahead and make an appearance check for me. Boothby, Connie, Hamish, would you like to do anything?
That's a fail.
Well, I think Boothby is also...
I think if Smythe sort of let us know, I think Connie would go with him and try and make it like,
Yeah.
oh, they're trying to look for the address and hopefully draw their attention.
Baxter succeeded in his
Baxter
stealth roll.
succeeded. Yep, all right.
He's successfully in the alleyway somehow.
You were a sneaky.
Connie, go ahead and make an appearance check for me.
It's the trench coat, thank you.
And Hamish, are you going to try to
Nice.
draw attention to yourself in any way to give
Almost.
the fisherman and Baxter the chance to sneak into the alleyway?
Yeah, I suppose he'd make himself out to be a very, very lost member of the clergy.
Yeah, so I would ask in that case, because I assume Connie failed her appearance roll.
No,
She-
it was
Don't you
a
passed?
it
Yep.
was a hard success.
Hard success. All right, so I
I
will
was
ask.
saying almost because it was almost a critical.
Almost critical. So I will ask Hamish to go ahead and make for me either an appearance check or an anthropology check.
Definitely anthropology. Pass.
So Connie and Smythe do their very best impression of just strolling through the main lane of the shanty town, peering intently at the facades of the buildings, making their best show of looking for somebody. And at first it's not really enough to distract the other fishermen. Their eyes are firmly locked on the one non-Innsmouther. They don't notice Baxter sneak away. He's in the alley before anyone notices, but it's the informant that needs to get away. However, Hamish approaches the others and clasps his hands together and begins to recite a prayer, calling upon Saint Jude, the patron of the lost, to help them find what they're looking for. Would that be appropriate, do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm thinking he's putting himself across a bit like a hack.
Yeah, he's just loudly telling the others not to worry, you'll find what you're looking for. Saint Jude will guide us to where we need to go, and occasionally throwing in a passage from the Bible. And this draws the attention of the fishermen. It's when Hamish starts reciting Bible verses that seems to be what gets them, and soon you find the bulbous eyes of all the fishermen locked on you, watching you intently as you go about searching for Jakes' house. Baxter creeps into the alleyway between two little shanty houses, and you find the sole normal-looking fisherman there. He's still holding the half-whittled figurine in his right hand, and as you approach, he looks once again left, right, over his shoulder to make sure no one's listening in, and then he beckons for you to come close. Alright, you say you're here for Harris Jakes?
Yes, we believe that he's brought harm to somebody in our care. And we need to get to the bottom of it, whatever the truth is.
I don't know what harm they could have brought to anyone close to you. They been out fishing. They been out since first light this morning out on the bay.
Regardless, I'd very much appreciate some time to speak with him myself.
Aye, well, he ain't home right now, but I suppose you could wait for him. He and Lanier should be back from fishing round about noon. I suppose you could wait at their home. That'd be 117 Main Street. He points down a lane leading through the shanty town.
17, perfect. 117. Yes, we were having a bit of trouble figuring out exactly which house it was. Thank you very much. I promise no harm will come to him unless he tries to bring harm to us first.
I'm glad to be of help. He wipes his hand on his grimy fisherman's overalls and holds it. I'm Dewey Smith, by the way.
Yes, a pleasure. It'd probably be best if you got back to your associates now before they suspect something. I appreciate your time, however.
Sure, but before I go, could I ask, what is it you think Mr. Jakes and Mr. Lanier have done? I mean, I know they was caught up in some shady stuff, these last couple of weeks, but...
I wish I could tell you more. I don't know myself.
He looks you up and down, and I'd like you to make an appearance check for me, please, Baxter.
That is a hard pass.
Suddenly he seems to feel that he can trust you. He bites his tongue for a second. He says, well, alright, before you go, I got a bit of info that might help you. If Mr. Jakes and Mr. Lanier are involved in something nasty, it might help you to know that a couple of days ago, they sent me to the home of a guy in town, goes by the name of Kermit Roars, and they wanted me to deliver a message to Mr. Roars. Everybody will know soon. At the time, I thought it was some sort of practical joke, Mr. Roars is one of those bookish types in town, and Mr. Jakes and Mr. Lanier are fishermen, I thought maybe they was playing some sailor's joke on him, but now you turn up out of towners asking questions, and it stuck in my head. Maybe Mr. Roars is in danger of being the next victim, you know what I mean?
That's actually very helpful. We'll check in on him as soon as we can, and rest assured, we'll handle this as best we can.
He slammed the door in my face when I gave the message, so maybe it weren't a practical joke after all. Well, I hope that helps, he says. I'm gonna make my way back there. The others will be waiting for me, and we're supposed to head out onto the bay soon as Jakes and Lanier are back. It's our turn to go out there. We take the noon to the evening shift. I hope you find what you're looking for, Mr. Baxter, he says, as he begins to shuffle away once again into the shadows.
Yeah, Baxter's going to spend a moment with his thoughts in the alleyway before he heads back to the car.
The rest of you see Baxter once again standing by the truck and realize that his little talk seems to be over. And so you head back to him, and as you reach Baxter, he leans in and he whispers, 117 Main Street.
He's also going to fill them all in on the Kermit Roars situation.
Yeah, whispering it to them as you make your way down Main Street towards 117. And so does...
First light.
Yeah, out since first light.
It does seem a bit convenient that the ID was there. Just lying there. I thought it had from a torn pocket, but it's possible something more is going on.
We can split up and go and see how this Ross fellow is. But given the nature of this town...
I mislike that notion. How long do you expect we'll be waiting? They're out of first light. be back any time now.
Hey, that's the question, isn't it? They'll be back around midday, so...
Did he mention where this Kermit Laws happens to live?
He did, I'll say. I didn't say it in the dialogue, but he gave you an address.
Is it some place we could pop over and then swing around back
So,
without losing
Kermit
too much time?
Raw's address seems to be up in the northern residential. So,
we're already over there. All right.
You're about here on the harbour. So it's a walk. If you were to walk there, it'd be, 20, 30 minutes out of your way. You could, if you got in your cars and drove, it wouldn't be that long. Either way, according to Smythe's pocket watch, it's about 11:45. It's only 15 minutes to noon now.
They probably won't be back until afternoon if they went out at first. We could probably spare the trip over to see Rawls. What do you think?
If we take the motor vehicles and pay them a visit, we shouldn't be too much later for their return.
Boothby, Connie, Hamish, do you concur?
I feel like it's not a bad idea. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I don't like the idea of staying in one spot for very long.
I will point out that at least to Smythe, given his drive for finding any information to do with Deep Ones, the notion of perhaps sneaking into Jake's residence while he's not home probably occurs to you.
It does.
If he is indeed out on the bay.
I do worry that going to go check on Kermit, like
Kermit Roars.
Yeah.
Yep, just like the frog.
If we do that first, that might alert Jake's and the other guy that we're snooping around, and they might be more prepared.
That could. There may be something to be gained to investigate their house before we go see Mr. Laws. Yes.
That is a window of opportunity that will close very, very soon.
Let's do it then.
Alright. I presume you're not splitting up. You probably
No.
don't feel keen on doing that here.
Not here.
So, you begin to slowly walk down the main street, winding through the shanty town, and as it draws closer and closer to the town itself and away from the actual harbour, there are less and less fishermen. The shanties begin to be spread further and further apart, some of them interspersed with actual honest-to-God houses. And once again, when you've passed through the shanty town, you find yourself in a section of Innsmouth that is once again mysteriously void of life. The only sounds, the distant waves crashing against the shore, and seemingly all alone in the fog that grows thicker and thicker the further into the town you walk. Finally, you arrive at number 117. Well, you're surprised it has a number at all. At first, in the fog, you see nothing but an empty lot, and you wonder what you could possibly be looking for here. But as you approach the empty lot itself with the number 117 clumsily painted in white paint on a decaying fence post, you realize that there is a simple lean-to lying on the very back edge of the lot itself, pressed up against the ivy-covered brick wall of one of the town's other buildings. It seems to be constructed from lumber scraps and driftwood. It's open on the side, facing the street, and there's a single sheet of canvas stretched across the doorway. Appears nobody is home. The yard itself is filled with, well, miscellaneous fishing supplies, buckets, broken fishing poles, half-constructed boats. Though Jake's house, as described, is not really much of a house at all. Only thing stopping you from entering is that cloth canvas sheet.
Yeah, Baxter's going to leave this one to Smythe. It's his rodeo.
Very well then. First in through the breach. Does anyone have a torch?
You hear it clicking from behind you, and Baxter's already produced one.
He hands it to you.
Lord Smythe will make a show of knocking upon the doorframe for any listeners or watchers.
You wrap your knuckles against the door frame, and the raps ring out in the empty street. Gung, 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 gung. But as expected, there's no answer from inside the shelter.
Alright. With the Webley drawn under his coat, torch in the other hand, he'll head on in.
So as he heads in, I will ask everyone else who's remaining outside to make a spot hidden check for me, please.
Baxter will be going in after
I
him,
think
so-
Hamish would go in as well, unless... no, if Baxter's going in, then Hamish would stay out, unless anyone else is going in.
Baxter's going in, that's fine.
Hamish would be wanting to watch out for people if others are going in.
That's what I was going to suggest, is that anyone who's not going in, make a spot hidden check.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. Who wants to go in and who wants to stay outside?
I think
Gonna
Boothby's
wait
gonna
outside
stay
first.
outside.
Yeah.
Boothby and Connie? Alright, so Hamish, you're free to go in with Baxter and
No,
Spider.
Hamish would watch out for Boothby and Connie.
Alright.
I don't think that Hamish entirely trusts their ability to self-defend.
Yeah, especially because when you came past the Temple of Dagon, they both just went straight towards it. So,
Yes.
I would ask Hamish, Connie, and Boothby to make spot hidden checks for me, please.
That's a fail for Hamish.
Yeah, there's a large fail for Connie.
Boothby.
Also not good.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll get to that in a moment. So Baxter and Smythe grab the canvas sheet, each on one side, and lift it up, pulling it over themselves as they step into the shelter and letting it drop behind them to hide their passage. Within the tiny shelter is a single set of clothes, deep blue fisherman's overalls, a pile of blankets that seemingly serves as a bed, a small kettle, and a scorch mark patch of dirt on the ground that must be some sort of fire pit. Inside the kettle, as Smythe grabs it, pulls open the lid, is a mouldy broth containing boiled vegetables and the decaying remains of several tiny pink crustaceans. The crustaceans' claws have been ripped off along with their heads and probably eaten. Strange, smoky, fishy smell clings to everything in the domicile. Most of the domicile that isn't taken up by the bed and the fire pit seems to be strewn with piles of trash, bits of fabric, broken furniture, discarded beer bottles, and the like. And there's a very, very disgusting smell emanating from one pile in particular that sort of smells like a mixture of feces, urine, and sweat.
Grabbing a piece of driftwood or some kind of wood, Bax is going to prod around in it, not touching it himself.
Smythe, what are you doing?
I'm going to hold the torch and the revolver and cover him as he searches the place.
So that will help Baxter, as Baxter goes ahead and makes for me either a hard intelligence check or, let us say, hard intelligence check or a survival check.
That's a hard pass. It's 2 off a critical.
Lovely. So with Smythe fixing the light on the pile of trash, Baxter begins to pick through it with a piece of driftwood. The smell, the stench grows stronger and stronger, threatening to overwhelm your senses as Baxter pulls here the front of his coat up over his face, holds his breath, and begins to pick through the random trash, trying to find something, anything of note. And it soon becomes apparent to you, Baxter, that what you're looking at is not a pile of trash at all. It seems to be like some sort of animal nest. Pile of random, meaningless possessions that have been just tossed in a corner of the dwelling, gathered there for a specific reason, collected by the owner. And once you realize this, you get an idea what you're looking for. You begin to shift some of the trash and old furniture out of the way, and at the very bottom, in a hole that seems to be dug out of the compacted dirt itself, in the very core of the nest, you find an extremely dirty, grime-encrusted wooden box with a single rusted iron latch on it.
Steeling himself, Baxter is going to crack it open.
The lid almost snaps off as you open it. It's in such poor condition. And inside, there's only one thing. A collection of yellowed, grimy pieces of parchment tied together with a piece of fisherman's string. A sort of makeshift journal. The handwriting is simple, childlike, the language very crude. And Smythe and Baxter, I will ask you to both make own language checks to pass it.
Let's see, where is own language on this sheet?
It'll be equal to your education if you don't have any points in it.
Oh. Should have paid more attention in college.
That is a regular pass.
Regular pass.
Un momento, let me do Fail.
Fail. That's okay. One pass will get you some of the information. So Baxter strains, his eyes narrowing in the light of the flashlight as he flips through the pieces of paper. Most of the entries list very mundane things that only a fisherman would care about, such as the number of fish brought in on a specific day, or the size of notable catches, or who has earned Jakes' wrath after besting him in a brawl. Nothing seems to be mentioned about Willie Harden. However, the last 3 entries strike you, Baxter, as being particularly interesting. I'm going to put a picture up in Owlbear Rodeo so you may all read along. The first entry reads, Lanier and I confronted the sap. He turned white as a sheet. He threatened to tell the order what we'd said. We laughed at him and told him to go ahead, tell them. He didn't say anything to that. The second entry reads, He came down to the harbour today to give us a sawbuck. He got mad when we told him we want another every 2 weeks, but he'll cough it up. He's a coward. Makes this a sweet deal. The Order may respect him for his books and powers, but they're just as disgusted by him as us. Imagine pretending to be human. He's an unworthy son of Dagon. Tonight, me and Lanier will drink up his money. And the third entry reads, Rawls didn't drop his money off this morning. I sent Smith to his place with a message to give him the jitters.
But this becomes apparent that Rawls is not exactly in the same pocket as them.
Yeah. It appears that Jakes and Lanier have something on Rawls. They're blackmailing him. They both appear to be part of the Order, but there is a secret that Rawls has that he's trying to keep hidden from the rest of the Order. Whatever it is, Jakes and Lanier know about it and are blackmailing him, a payment every week, and it doesn't seem as if Rawls particularly appreciates the situation.
With this, Baxter's going to pocket the paperwork and motion to Smythe that it's time to leave.
Meanwhile,
Gladly.
outside, you're keeping watch as best you can, Connie, Boothby, Hamish. You're peering down the street into the fog, straining to see anyone coming, and it's a complete surprise to you when a voice calls out from somewhere in the white haze, Oi! You whirl around, and emerging from the fog on the opposite side of the street, the direction where you weren't looking, is a single, particularly bulky man. He's about 6 feet tall. He's built like an outhouse, and he has that same telltale Innsmouth look as the rest of the fishermen. His tiny little slit-like mouth curls in contempt as he takes in the sight of the three of you, and he says, What you doing here at Jakes' house? He's out on the bay! You better not be snooping around or there'll be trouble.
Somewhere inside the building, Baxter's hand instinctively grips on the bat a little tighter.
Yep, probably Smythe on the gun as well, but Hamish, Connie...
Hamish's eyes just shift to the con artist among them.
Trying to remember her voice.
I heard there's been out-of-towners asking around for Jakes in particular. So out with it. What do you want with him? Says the bulky man. And he flexes his beefy, salami-like fingers.
Tell you fucking what. Hamish starts speaking Scots to him. Not Scots. Yeah, Scots will do, I guess. He's really laying the accent on thick, though. He's trying to make him look like they're a little bit lost again.
Yeah. All right. Connie, Boothby, do you add to this?
I suppose she would, yeah, seeing what Hamish is doing, she, like, picks up on us. Yeah, no, we're actually quite lost at the moment. We're, as you said, we're out of towners. We don't know our way around.
Connie, I'll get you to make a fast talk check while Hamish goes ahead and makes either a persuade or fast talk, his choice.
Can do. Let me see what I've got. That's right, I have 50 persuade, so yeah. That's a pass and a push. It's actually a hard pass and a push.
Where's everything? Just a success on my end.
It's a success. So
he's gonna weave in enough English words that the guy can get the gist of what he's getting at.
Yeah, it's just like you got like you hear this like burr of just full on thick Scottish. nonsense occasionally interspersed with words like harbour and newsagent and general store and things like that, and occasionally, oh, the Lord help us, and like half of a Bible verse that's just barely illegible, while Connie just sort of smiles and says,
For what it's worth, he's speaking Scots, not Gaelic.
Yeah.
It's not going to sound like gibberish, but it's going to be hard to follow.
It's going to sound like gibberish to an Innsmouther with like 40
Fair enough.
So, and Connie's just sort of shrugging and saying, well, you know, we're out of town. We were looking for a place to refill our gas for our car so we can move on and, says the man, his gaze lingering on Connie and on Hamish in particular. Gas, general store. It's down there, back the way you came, he says, jabbing his thumb back in the direction of the shanty town. And let me advise you, he says, looking at Hamish. All this stuff about the Lord and Psalms and Corinthians. You best hold your tongue with that stuff in this town. Wouldn't want anyone to get the wrong idea, understand?
Hamish just nods. He makes an air of looking a little bit like afraid, but not like afraid, just a little bit like gulp, you know?
Yeah, like looking like the guy's intimidation has worked on him, and the guy folds his arms and then he glances towards the lean-to as if making sure that there isn't anyone about to emerge from inside. And then he shrugs and he says, all right, I'll take you as far as the new church green, and then you're on your own. Follow me, and let it not be said that Innsmouth don't welcome outsiders.
Does he, by any chance, turn to lead them away?
He does, yes.
Under his breath, Hamish just mutters, Lord forgive me, and just fucking clocks him in the back of the head.
Go ahead and make me a fighting brawl check, please.
That's a pass.
That's a pass. As the man takes a single step forwards and stops for just a second to collect himself and mutter something under his breath of his own, something that sounds suspiciously like, Turners, leave us the hell alone. And then Hamish just rushes forwards, moving faster than anyone would ever expect him to move, clenching his fist and clunk, brings it down on the back of the man's head. He lets out a pained gasp and then crumples forwards onto the dirt.
Yeah, Hamish has 70 in boxing.
Yeah, so you just took him straight out, and he's just lying in a heap at your feet.
Yeah, old mate started off a much rougher life, and he's kept himself active since.
Connie sort of calls out, it's safe now, if anyone wants to come out. And Baxter and Smythe emerge from the lean-to find Hamish just sort of pounding his knuckle on the palm of his hand as he stands over the unconscious form of a man almost a foot taller than him. A real David and Goliath situation.
Not how I would have handled it, but I can't argue with the results. Alright. Let's drag him off someplace where he won't be noticed immediately, then be on our way to the fellow who's being blackmailed.
Look around, and it looks like the closest place to drag him would be into Jakes' shelter.
You know what? He can explain what he's doing in there. If they come back early.
Smythe and Baxter hoist this huge Goliath of a man up and just push him through the canvas sheet, and you hear the sound of something crashing inside the lean-to as the great man collapses over a pile of old furniture and sprawls on the floor. And then what's up next? Raw's house? Anyone want to comment on what Hamish just did?
Already did.
Yeah.
I think we already understand he's a man who can hold himself, so...
Yeah. It's not what you expected to see from the priest, but it's immediately apparent that the guy knows how to handle himself, and you feel slightly more confident traveling to your next destination. Make your way back through the shanty town, and soon enough you emerge at the main street on the edge of the harbour where your vehicles are parked. And just as you reach your vehicles, you hear a voice ring out from the fog. One of the sailors shouting something you can't quite hear, and for a moment you tense, thinking, did they find him? But no, it's the sound of raucous laughter, and then one of the Innsmouthers walks past you, shouting, "Hey, Jakes and Lanier are back, eh? Let's get the boat back on the jetty, come on!" As he gathers some of the other sailors around him, and they disappear into the shanty town. But Jakes and Lanier are back, and that means you've only got a short amount of time to conduct your investigations before they discover that unfortunate man passed out in Jakes' home. So, you clamber into your vehicles, and I would like Boothby to make a drive check, and Smythe to make a navigate check, and we'll see just how much time you'll have on the clock when you arrive.
Don't expect miracles.
"Where to?" says Colin. "It ain't far, right?"
Only a 4. Nope, that's a fail.
Boothby passes. So Boothby, fed up with the truck hogging most of the street, seeming to take ages to find its way through the harbour district, through the shoreward slums and into the northern residential, turns off on a side street, and the roadster barrels through the residential district, coming to Pierce Street, where Kermit Raw's house sits on the corner. When Colin realises the roadster's disappeared into the mist, "Oi, Mr. Boothby's given us the flick! I bet he's in pursuit mode, he is! Let's follow on!" he shouts, and he slams his foot on the pedal, jolting everyone in the truck's cabin forwards as the truck picks up speed, catching up with Boothby. And according to Smythe's pocket watch, it's 12:15 when you finally arrive at Kermit Raw's residence. Doesn't seem as if the alarm in the harbour's been raised, but it's only a matter of time. You could have been quicker, but you could have taken longer. You've got just about enough time to do what you need to do. So, you climb out of your vehicles and make your way up to what is, for Innsmouth anyway, a particularly impressive home. Double-story, turn-of-the-century American Gothic architecture, the front gardens and the front gardens perfectly manicured, and the dirt path that winds its way up to a set of double mahogany doors with a brass lion head-shaped knocker is particularly well maintained, almost as if Raw's or whoever lives here gets a lot of visitors and wants make their home look as welcoming as possible. As you make your way up the path and climb up the 3 wooden stairs standing in front of the front door, you notice something odd. You were told that this is where Kermit Roars lives, and yet the name above the mailbox that's affixed to the front facade of the house reads Babson.
Baxter's going to assume that's an alias and knock.
Grab the lion head-shaped knocker and rap on the door once, twice, 3 times. You hear the sound of something unlatching on the other side, and one of the mahogany doors opens just a crack. The face of a woman, middle-aged, mid to late 40s, maybe early 50s, her brown hair flecked with strands of silver, appears in the crack. She looks you up and down, instantly appraises that you're out-of-towners, and then she smiles and she says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. If you're here about the apartment, it's being rented out."
It wouldn't happen to be rented out by one Kermit Ross, would it?
"You're friends of Mr. Roars?" she says.
Indeed, one of the few in this town, I think you'll find.
Mr. Roars has been such a good tenant. It wouldn't be right to leave his friends on the front stoop. But please, come in, she says. And she pushes the door the rest of the way open, beckoning you over the threshold. She leads you to a sitting room a short distance down the corridor and gestures for you to take a seat in some nicely upholstered leather chairs around a coffee table that already has a silver teapot and several cups laid out. She says, "Oh, Mr. Roz has been living in our basement for the last, would be 2 months now? My husband's been out of town on business, you see, and, well, it's hard to maintain a house like this on my own, so I put an ad in the paper, and Mr. Roz answered, and, well, he's been a very nice tenant. Oh, could I get your names? I imagine he'll want to know who's, come calling."
Baxter diverts the question. Basement. He rents out the basement.
Yes, we have a guest room up on the 2nd floor, and that's what was in the newspaper ad. But when Mr. Roz arrived, he looked around the house, and for some reason, he said the basement would do him fine. Said it was more, well, I'll agree with him, it's more spacious than the room up on the 2nd floor, but it's dark and damp and dank, there ain't no windows, and, well, he said it suited his purposes just fine, had all his books and bookshelves brought down there, and, well, he's up to date on his rent, he helps out around the house.
Where is this basement? Please take me to it.
Oh, well, I was gonna let him know you were here, send him up to talk to you, but, well, it don't rightly feel right to send strangers, even if they are Mr. Roz's friends, right to his own apartment room.
Don't worry, we'll knock.
She looks at the others. Strange. Mr. Roz seems quite a respectable man. He's got a lot of books, spends a lot of time reading, and a priest looks over at Smythe and says, "An Englishman," and looks over at Connie. Well, at least you look like you got share some interests with Mr. Ross. I must say, I wasn't expecting him to have such strange friends.
There's a small question of veracity of a journal that a friend of mine had found from early in this town's history. We want to run it by him.
A journal?
I'll pull out the journal that Was in the farmhouse.
Babson steps forwards and she takes it. And she doesn't open it. She just holds it in her hand looking down. And she says, "Oh, it looks mighty old. Well, I don't know if Mr. Ross knows much about history, but he has a lot of books and..." Go ahead and make a persuade check for me, please, Smythe.
Well, it is best one, but he really doesn't want to scare the pants off this lady. She seems innocent on all of this. Nope. Fail.
See, the thing is, she says, Mr. Ross is a quiet man, and like I said, he reads a lot. He does a lot of study, and I feel very bad to interrupt his study. He's told me several times that he appreciates the peace and quiet. You see, that's probably why I chose the basement to rent. So I can take this book to him, but I don't think he'd take kindly to 5 people suddenly showing up on the threshold of where he's trying to enjoy his peace and quiet. You understand?
Well, I'll tell you what. He scribbles out a brief note, puts it into an envelope, folds it in the book. That's my offer for the assignment of the journal. If you take the journal to him and show him the letter, and if he likes the offer, then we'll wait up here and he can come up and see us.
And
we'll call us down to him.
And what do you write in the note, Smythe?
We're aware of your blackmail situation and can help if you'll meet with us.
She doesn't read the note. She just takes it, folds it in half, and she says, "Well, I'll tell him you called, and if you just wait here in the sitting room," she gestures towards the coffee table. "The teapot there is fresh. Pour yourselves a cup or two, and I'll make sure Mr. Ross knows you've been, and I'll tell him to come by and discuss this book and the offer." As she begins to leave the room, she stops once again in front of Baxter. She looks him up and down. She says, "Oh, I didn't catch your name, young man."
Baxter grips his bat and furrows his brow at her.
Go ahead, Baxter. Make me an intimidate check.
It's not quite a success.
Not quite a success. You want to push it?
Nah, whatever.
Curious, she says. You said you were his friends, but you won't even say who you are, and making all sorts of strange offers. I know Mr. Ross has had some trouble with some of the fishermen of late, and you don't exactly look the type to be connected with them, but... Well, now, I'm gonna have to insist that you at least tell me who you are, so Mr. Ross knows whether he's about to walk into a trap set by that Jakes or that Lanier.
Baxter grumbles and produces a business card to give her. He's like right on the brink of just beating her with the bat and seeing him himself.
She looks down at the card.
Mine as well.
Takes them. You're a detective, sir, and an accountant, and Lord Smythe. Well, I suppose this will do. Slides both of the cards in between the book and the note. She says, "All right, y'all make yourselves comfortable. I'll be back in a moment with Mr. Ross." And then she turns and leaves you alone in the sitting room. What do you do?
Take a sniff of the tea. Is it decent?
It's not a patch on proper English tea, but it appears to actually be tea. It's not You can't in good mind say that it's poisoned or that anything untoward has been done to it.
She made it before we came here, so I doubt it. I'll have a drink if somebody else wishes to go investigate the house during this brief window while she is busy. That might not be a bad idea. But she is suspicious, so perhaps we could avoid that.
Yeah.
It is your call, gentlemen and lady.
Take a sip of the tea, Smythe, pouring it into one of the little cups, and it tastes quite bland, but it's passable. Anyone game to sneak around? Otherwise, you can simply wait.
I'm not sure what we'd actually expect to find in this place. It's not like she would know anything, or any of the other tenants are of interest.
She said he's renting the basement, so it's unlikely that anything in the rest of the house would be his, but Smythe is as ever paranoid.
She is suspicious too, so perhaps it's best.
Boothby? Hamish? Connie?
I mean, Boothby always likes snooping around in people's shit, so he might just, like, not very, diligently, like, he doesn't really expect to find anything, but he's just gonna kind of leaf through whatever he can find and see if there's anything particularly interesting.
Yep. Connie and Hamish?
Hamish, seeing as soon as Boothby starts doing this, immediately is like, he just grunts loudly and like clears his throat and just looks at him.
What do you do, Boothby?
Boothby just glares and makes the fish people motion again in an attempt to be like, our lives are at risk, let me be nosy.
Boothby, I will ask you to make a spot hidden check for me.
Yay, I'm bad at those. I'll push that. Fuck, I did worse. No pass.
No pass. What is your spot hidden skill? I'll see if I can give you something, but not all of it.
It is the default 25%.
Would you like to win with a cost?
The fact you're offering this to me makes me out of character go, I should probably take this, but yeah, I think Boothby's hitting like a peak of his paranoia that he's like really trying to figure out what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah. So, as Smythe grabs the teapot and pours some tea for Hamish to try to calm him down because he's still looking quite indignant. Seriously, Hamish, you've known this Boothby guy for like a day and you've already seen him want to leave a dying man and then sneak around 2 separate properties. He's most certainly not a good Christian.
No. Hamish is going to leave it.
Yeah. Boothby steps out of the room, and Boothby, once you're out of the sitting room and in the hallway, you can see the stairs that lead down to the basement, down at the very end of the hallway attached to a kitchen, but that's not where you're going. Instead, you cross the hallway and step into what looks like some sort of study or reading room. The shelves are laden with books. Most of them seem to be relatively normal. You don't really have the time or expertise to examine them in any detail. You don't find anything in this room suggesting you're in danger, so you step out, make your way down the hallway and past the kitchen. There's only one kitchen in the house, and it's attached to the dining room on the first floor, and this is where Roars would eat. He would presumably come up from his basement apartment at dinner time, join Mrs. Babson around the table and any of the other tenants. And you find the kitchen very clean, almost meticulously clean, as if it was cleaned within the hour of you before you arrived. The same with the dining room. There's a couple plates laid out. You can smell something cooking in the oven, and lunch is going to be served very soon. The places are all set. But there's nothing particularly strange or dangerous, at least until you're stepping out of the dining room back into the hallway, and in the corner of your eye, see a single black scorch mark, like black ash or chalk, on the door frame. Peering down at your feet, you see a single little scrap of what looks like black particles pulled at the baseboard of the wall, as if somebody dropped them here when they were making their way through the door, pressing up against the door frame, and as if this blackish ash was shaken off their body. You lean down to get a closer look at it, and this is where the win with the cost comes into play, Boothby, because as you lean down to get a good look at these black scorch marks, maybe gather up some of that substance for yourself to show to the others, the floorboard beneath the carpet you're standing on creaks loudly, and it's very clear to you that anyone in the basement directly below you would have heard that, would know that someone's moving around, lurking upstairs. And so you quickly pull back, your heart in your mouth, pounding, thump, 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 and to make your way back to the others in the sitting room. Smythe and Baxter are just about done with their tea when the door opens and Boothby shuffles back in, his face white and his eyes wide.
You look as if you've seen a ghost.
Hamish is just looking at him very pointedly.
This is what you get for snooping around people's homes.
I mean, it's a
unneighborly.
Yeah, Boothby is deeply concerned at this point, and kind of like constantly, like, his eyes are darting around the room, waiting for something to like jump out, basically.
What did you find, man? Anything?
Weird, so like the stuff that we saw back at the farm.
He's the bastard. He's the one.
Seems so.
He left the ID to set us off in a different direction.
At this point, as if to add credence to Smythe's words, a scream rings out from the hallway. The door bursts open and Mrs. Babson rushes into the room. "Something's wrong," she says, worry written into every inch of her face. He's having a seizure or a bad turn or something. Please, you have to help.
Is she lying to me?
You can make an insight check if you want.
Is she lying to my damn face? Insight.
Would be
just roll.
no, psychology, I mean. Sorry.
Oh. Not the greatest at that. I'm already moving, but I'm assuming it's an ambush. Haha, it's a critical failure.
Critical failure. All
98.
you can register is that she's extremely panicked. Her face red, her eyes wide. I knocked on the door. I said a Mr. Baxter and a Mr. Smythe had come to check about a book. He started coughing, rolling around on the floor. He's all blue in the face.
Well, looks like I'm rushing downstairs.
Baxter is too. Bat in tow.
That's in tow. Hamish.
Yeah,
Connie.
he's going.
Everyone's rushing.
I suppose, yeah.
You follow Miss Babson down the hallway, and she flings open the door, revealing the stairwell to the basement. She leads you down to the basement where Mr. Rawes resides. It's a cluttered mess filled with stacks of books and a small bed. A man, who you can only assume to be Rawes, lies on the bed in the fetal position, rocking slowly back and forth, while he quietly mutters to himself, wheezing. His body convulsing. Mrs. Babson takes one look at him, turns back to you, the look on her face clearly saying, help him. I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna call help. I'm gonna telephone for an ambulance, she says. And she turns to leave the room.
Baxter looks to the groups, giving them a look of not on her own, she doesn't.
Smythe nods back.
Who's gonna follow her?
No, Baxter will go after her.
Yeah. Alright. Or Connie? Do you want to go? Baxter's volunteering, but Connie, you could step forwards and you could volunteer as well if you want.
No, Connie wants to go. Baxter will stay.
I think, yeah, Connie will, because I'm not entirely sure how helpful she can be down here with him.
Come on, whispers Connie, as she grabs the old lady by the hands and begins to help her up the stairs. You hear the footsteps scrambling up the staircase and then the sound of the door bursting open as Mrs. Babson and Connie leave the rest of you in the basement with Mr. Rawes spasming on the bed, coughing, spluttering, and seeming to intersperse his wheezing, his gasping breath with gibberish.
Come
And-
off it, man.
And Connie, thankfully, as you reach the top of the staircase, Miss Babson does not turn to grab the latch on the door. Seeming to be genuinely panicked, I'll tell you with your psychology skill, she rushes down the hallway into the kitchen, making for the telephone. So, Hamish, Hamish, you have Cthulhu Mythos skill.
He's got, let me see.
I think we agreed he started
He's
with a little
got
bit.
6.
6, yeah.
He's
Alright.
run into some stuff before he met the group, but really not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. Enough that it piqued his interest, and that's why he's involved with this at the moment. So I will ask Boothby and Hamish and Smythe and Baxter to all make Cthulhu Mythos checks.
That's a fail.
Well, let's see if the
Fail.
dice are kind.
Nope, no deal.
No
I mean,
deal.
I've got a whole 5%, so...
I could spend 30 luck.
That's a critical failure.
Up
That's
to
a
you.
100.
Do you guys want me to spend 30 luck? Because I could literally do that, but...
No,
What?
It's up to you if you think it's worth it.
I don't know. I just rolled a critical fail, so you do what you
Yeah,
want, boo.
critical
No,
fail.
no, fuck it, don't do it.
Yeah. So he continues to convulse there on the bed.
Come off it, man.
Do you rush to help him? Or you just say, come off it, man?
I say, come off it, man.
But you think he's having a son?
I think that you dropped this card while you were out at the farm last night. Would that be an accurate assessment, sir?
Make an intimidate check for me, please.
As Smythe unlimbers the Webley in his other hand. Cocks it. Intimidate. Pass. Hey.
Pass. You flash the card, and he instantly stops convulsing. Lying there in the fetal position, the feeble little man with the wire-frame glasses and the unnaturally neat, carefully parted black hair looks up at you. And then he smiles. Dagon, take you! And he finishes the incantation of his Breath of the Deep spell. But Smythe, you had a feeling something was going on, and you happened to catch him in a moment of hesitation right at the end, and that's enough to give you a chance to understand that he is doing something and ready your mental defenses. So go ahead and make me a power roll, please, Smythe.
Me? Okay. This is actually a pretty good... I shouldn't jinx it. Let's see how this goes. Success. He hasn't yet.
Success. I will now roll for his. Is it just a normal success?
It is just a normal success. Nothing I can do about
success. You're very lucky. Well, you might be very lucky. So what did you roll, and what
60.
is your power? 60? And what's your
Out
power?
of 70.
70, so 10. He rolled a 56 on his power of 65, meaning his was 9 points, meaning you beat him by 1 point. Roars looks at you, his face wrenched in anger and hatred, and suddenly you feel a wave of nausea in the pit of your stomach. You buckle over and vomit brackish black water onto the compacted earth floor of the basement.
Baxter is bringing the baseball bat down on his head.
Baxter rushes forwards, and go ahead and make me a fighting brawl check, please.
I'm gonna push that.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's better. That's a critical.
Critical. Alright. I won't get you to roll for damage. It's a critical, so all I would say is instead, as Smythe stands there buckled over, coughing, spluttering, coughing water up onto the floor, spraying it onto the front of his coat. He struggles to maintain hold of the gun in his hand, and Smythe, you'll be fine in a moment. The spell didn't have its full effect on you. Your lungs do not fill with brackish seawater. You do not take the 1d8 damage and begin to drown. Instead, you're just momentarily stunned as you heave, as your insides squirm, and the small amount of water that suddenly appeared in your system begins to evacuate your body. Baxter rushes forwards, brings the bat up in the air, and it comes down, and there's a sickening crack as Raw's head smashes like a watermelon, drops clean off his shoulders and rolls off the bed onto the floor, the eyes staring blankly, the face still frozen in a mask of hatred. And then, His headless body begins to squirm. The skin begins to bubble. The clothes begin to strain as the flesh drops off, as the skin begins to peel, revealing underneath putrid black. The form on the bed begins to expand, the clothing torn, ripped asunder, leathery skin peels away, and Roars reveals his true shape. A figure, roughly humanoid, slightly taller than the average man, but morbidly obese. Comprised of fetid, roiling black muck. Eyes and tiny mouths beginning to form out of the folds of flabby black flesh. Acidic drool rolling down the body and pooling on the floor. Does anyone have Cthulhu mythos of at least 12?
That's a no.
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
If you did, you would realize that you're staring at Shoggoth. I would instead ask everyone to make SAD checks, please.
Oh, I was waiting for that. I was wondering when you were gonna kick that.
Does Connie need to since she's not there?
Connie, you're not there. Instead,
So,
you're hearing the sound of coughing and spluttering coming from the basement, and you hear the sound of Baxter's bat collide with something. And in the room ahead of you, you can hear Mrs. Babson furiously dialing a number on the telephone.
Hamish fails.
Hamish fails.
But Smythe passes by 1.
And Boothby?
Boothby passes.
Boothby passes.
Baxter does not pass, but not by much.
So I will ask, what is Connie doing?
I suppose, yeah, seeing that she doesn't seem to be out to get us and was generally just calling the phone, she'll rush back to the basement and seeing as sounds like something's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. You'll arrive momentarily. Leaving Miss Babson to her devices on the phone, you start to scramble back down the stairs. And as you make your first couple of steps, you hear a terrified scream ring out from the basement below. Hamish, Boothby, Smythe, you all lose 1d6 San. Baxter, you lose 1d20 San to see a Shoggoth in its true form.
Yep.
That's a 6.
Ouch. Wow, that's 17. That's the most sanity I've ever lost in this game.
Why was I rolling that? I needed a 1d6. Okay.
Yeah, Hamish lost 6.
Only 2.
2. Oh, Smythe! Smythe, you have a moment of shocked terror, but you're mainly just incensed with anger. This thing tried to drown you. You've got your gun, it's burning red in your hand, and you just want to put this sorry thing out of its misery. Boothby?
Oh, he only lost 1.
Yeah, same with
He's
Boothby. There's a moment of shock, but is this really any different than what you've seen before? You're with Smythe. The others, though. Baxter opens his mouth, and for the first time since you've known this man, this stoic detective who's always so calm and collected, he opens his mouth and lets out the most terrified, strangled scream. I would like Hamish and Baxter to go ahead and make intelligence checks. They're going to see if you go insane. It doesn't matter if it's temporarily insane. Normal insane is enough when you're dealing with a Shoggoth.
Hamish fails the intelligence check.
Yeah. So, Hamish, you do not go insane. How do you rationalize what you're seeing?
I truly don't know. I mean, I guess, is rationalization truly necessary when this is not Hamish's real first run-in with this stuff?
Yeah.
So
Would it-
obviously it's making you see an illusion. He's making himself look stupid.
Would it be fair to say that you acknowledge what is happening, but you have the strength of the Lord
Sure.
behind you? So
That's dumb enough. Let's go with that.
you have the strength of the Lord behind you, and you're ready to deal with this. Baxter, though, how do you go on your intelligence check?
Can I spend 1 luck to reduce it by 1?
So you want to spend luck to fail the check?
Yes. Is that possible?
I'll allow you to do it.
I passed by 1, so
I'll allow you to spend 1 luck to reduce your score and fail the check.
awesome. Thank you.
You've seen deep ones. You've seen things who are half man, half fish. But this thing, this corpulent mass of black sludge, and I'm putting a picture of it in our bear rodeo so you can see exactly what Baxter is looking at. Surely this is a trick of the light. This is whatever magic, whatever it did to first Willie and then Smythe, whatever it's done is warping your vision of reality. This is just a trick of the mind and nothing more. And you clutch your bat, ready to go. All right, what are your dex values, everyone?
Dex value
50.
would be
60.
65.
65, and you have your gun drawn, which adds 50.
Sure do.
And Boothby?
Boothby has 50.
Is your gun drawn too?
Yeah.
So, Smythe, you're up first. What would you like to do?
I'm going to roll a quick intelligence check here, if that's okay.
Okay, what would you like to try to glean?
Because Lord Smythe is remembering an empty shotgun and a shattered lantern.
Go ahead, make an idea check.
Nope. So he's just gonna shoot the thing.
You can push it if you like.
No.
All right.
I am absolutely
He's gonna
not
shoot
pushing
it.
the shotgun.
You don't
in
have
front
your,
of me.
and you didn't bring your elephant gun in, so you're gonna make do with
That's-
the Wembley.
The Webley's a good gun.
Go ahead, roll to hit it.
Helped conquer a whole lot of people who
Roll
we
me a
oppressed, so-
firearms.
50, that's a pass.
50, that's a pass. The thing's huge size makes it an easy target. It doesn't even attempt to dodge. You raise the gun, tense the trigger, and send a round flying into what passes for the thing's face. The bullet shatters one of its eyes, spraying green, acidic goo forth. And it continues coming, lurching slowly towards you, each step leaving more fetid black sludge and a trail behind it, and a new eye appears on its right shoulder, forming out of its body to replace the old. You may go ahead and roll your damage, and for the Wembley, that will be... Let me just check the book here. That'll be 1d8.
Alright. The lantern! The lantern! Says Smythe. Find fire! He advises the others. That'll be a 3.
I'm going
3.
to choose to play this as such that I think if Hamish got away from that, got away with that by feeling he has the Lord on his side and therefore he is okay, that's made him overconfident.
Yeah, that works.
And I think our homeboy is just gonna run in and punch the thing.
Alright, we'll get to that in a moment, because as it takes a bullet from Smythe and continues lurching forward, seeming to not even register that it was shot at all, it's Boothby's turn. Smythe calls out, "The lantern! The lantern, quick!" And
Find
Connie,
fire.
you, making your way down the stairwell still, will hear this. We'll get to you in a moment, though. Boothby, what would you like to do?
He is gonna try to get the lantern. He's gonna try to catch this thing on fire, I think.
You're gonna scramble around for a lantern? Alright. So there are no lanterns in the basement. You look around, you see not a single one, and it clicks in your head. This thing doesn't like fire. I'll get you to make a luck check for me, Boothby.
That's not gonna go well. Yeah, I failed.
There's no lantern in the basement, and the lantern that Baxter usually carries around, he forgot to bring it in. But you do remember a lantern in the reading room upstairs when you were snooping around.
I think Boothby is going to yell through Connie. Is going to relay that there's a lantern in the reading room and to grab that. And then he's going to try to fire.
Try to fire? Boothby's voice rings out from below Connie. "The reading room! Lantern! Light it! Hurry!" And then a gunshot peals out. As Boothby fires. Go ahead and roll your firearms for me, Boothby.
I got... Just getting the exact number of your...
That counts as a normal success.
Yeah. And then damage...
Again, the thing makes no attempt to dodge. And even if it did, it would be too big, too feated, too slow.
15 damage.
15 damage. Your bullet slams into the thing's center mass. One of the mouths gaping on its torso screams, a long black tongue dropping off and melting away into ash. But it keeps coming, keeps lurching towards you, seemingly not registering the hit at all. Alright, Hamish, you want to charge the thing?
Yeah, he's got the might of the Lord behind him.
But first, I just remembered Baxter has 60 dex, so Baxter, you're up first.
Baxter is going to be getting out his trusty lighter and setting the bookcases on fire.
Ooh, okay. So the nearest bookcase is on the other side of the room. You're going to have to run past this thing to get to it. Are you prepared to do that?
I mean, it's the closest fire they got.
Yeah. So you grit your teeth in determination and make a break for it, holding your bat in one hand to try to fight it off, your gold-plated lighter in the other, and you make a break for Raw's collection of occult tomes. Go ahead and make a dex check for me.
That is a fail.
You can push it. Keep in mind, things will get worse if you fail again.
It's already pretty bad. Alright, let's see. That's a regular pass.
Regular pass. Alright. The Raw's Shoggoth thing rolls and gets a hard pass. Baxter, you're nearly there. You're about a meter away. And then, even though it's not even facing you, even though it's lurching towards Smythe and Boothby, suddenly its right shoulder bursts open. The fetid flesh bubbles away and a single long appendage reaches out, a toothy maw on the end of it, lashing towards you like a whip. You whirl around to try to bat it away with your bat, but it's too late. It grabs you, coils around your throat, and launches you towards the Shoggoth itself, burying your head and your body in its putrid flesh. Baxter, you take 7 points of damage as the tentacle violently compresses you into the Shoggot's body. You open your mouth to scream, but fetid black sludge pours down your throat, and you begin to suffocate. Go ahead and make a con check for me, Baxter.
That's a pass, but that doesn't matter. He only had 5 health.
5 health left. Ooh,
No, he
yeah.
had 5 health and he lost 7. He's done.
He lost 7, yeah.
Wait.
Well,
You're still banged up.
Yeah, he was in hospital literally before they drove down here.
he was, yeah. He took
Oh.
7.
He had crutches in the first episode in town.
Oh,
He took
Christ.
7 points. That counts as a major wound. And so you briefly see Baxter's arm flail as it sticks out of the Shoggot's body, and then there's a great slurp as it pulls the arm into its body. Baxter's hat drops onto the floor, and the lighter, the lid still open, clatters onto the concrete. And now, Hamish, what would you like to do? Having just seen Baxter swallowed whole in this creature's mass.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god, is he gonna dive in after me?
Holy shit, he totally is.
As far as you know, he might still be alive in there.
Yeah, Hamish would try to get him out. He's
Pass the
riled up.
Yeah. Right, so as you rush forwards, you can make a fighting check, or you can make a strength check. It's up to you.
Let's say pass.
That's a pass. You rush forwards, and as you do, 3 mouths on the Shoggot's torso open and let out a great roar, and it flails one of its thick arms in your direction, and it's going to roll a fighting check to oppose yours to see if it can grab you and add you to the pile, so to speak. And that's going to be... So that was a regular pass for you, was it, Hamish?
Yeah, just a regular.
That's a regular pass for the Shoggoth. You dig your hand into its fetid flesh and you feel something. Something that could be Baxter. Something that's shaped like a human hand. You grab onto it and you pull and feel something begin to give, begin to fall loose, and then wham! Thunk! Roars thick arm, batters you in your chest, knocks you across the room. You fly into the brick wall, hear something crack and crumble to the floor as you take 5 points of damage. And that counts as a major wound, and I'll ask you to make a constitution roll to see if that knocks you out.
That's a fail.
That's a fail, and Hamish has just enough time to gurgle, He's alive! Before he passes out in a dead faint, leaving Smythe and Boothby left. Connie, what would you like to do?
Well, as she heard the initial thing about fire, her plan was going to be to run up and try and find a lantern, and now she's been told where one is, so she's just going to run straight for it.
Yeah.
Completely oblivious about what's going on.
Go ahead and make a dex check for me, please.
That is a hard success.
Hard success. You scramble down the hallway into the reading room that Boothby indicated, and sure enough, there's a single lantern on a reading desk. You quickly check it to make sure it has kerosene in it. Make a luck check, please.
Oh, this isn't going to go well. I have very little luck at the moment. Yeah, no, that's a fail.
You peer inside, and there's some dregs of orange liquid in the cradle. You're not sure if it'll be enough to get a fire going, but you probably don't have time to search for fuel, so I'll leave it up to you. Will you take a chance, or are you going to spend time searching for a way to refuel it?
No, she's just gonna take it and run. Things sound like they were getting bad.
Yeah. Okay, so with your with the success on your dex check, you scramble once again past the kitchen. You hear Mrs. Babson panicking in the other room, talking to the operator, shouting down the line, "Please! Please, an ambulance and the police as well! Something's gone wrong! I can hear there's gunfire in the basement! I think it's the sailors! They've come back for him!" You rush down the stairs just in time to see Hamish flung across the room, hitting the wall next to the door frame with a loud crack and coming to a rest on the floor. And Connie, I'd like you to make a sand check for me, please.
As you see it.
As you see it.
I swear to God, if she fails and runs away.
Oh God, with the lance.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
No,
Season goes insane again.
That's actually not a bad outcome here.
And it goes by current sun, doesn't it?
There's your current sand.
Yeah. Oh, it's a success.
Success. 1d6 sun loss, please.
Mhm.
Instead of 1d20.
Oh, jeez. 1d6. That is a 4.
4. It all comes flashing back in an instant. That cave under the beach, the deep ones. Ruth. Last time you ran and hid, but not this time. You clutch the lantern in your hand as this towering mass begins to lurch towards you, and you spy Baxter's lighter lying on the ground just beyond Boothby. Just beyond the creature. Only you could get to it.
Or
Smythe.
throw the lantern.
Yeah, or you could throw the lantern. It's totally up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Smythe closes his eyes, opens them, looks over to Boothby. Get Hamish out of here. I'll draw its attention. And then he starts moving into the side of the basement, firing as he goes. Come on, you bastard.
Go ahead, make a firearms check.
Your god couldn't take me down. What chance do you think you have? $96. Is that a crit fail?
96, that is not a crit fail. That would be on a 100, but it is a miss as you dash towards it, raise your gun and fire. It lashes out the whip-like appendage from its right shoulder, seeming to bat the bullet away, and you hear the tiny, useless piece of metal clatter onto the ground as the 3 mouths on its torso let out an angered roar, an ear-screeching cacophony that rends your very soul. But the Shoggoth takes your offer. It turns, faces you. What passes for its head turns in your direction. 5 eyes simultaneously fixated upon you, and it begins to take another lurch in your direction. Boothby, you're up. You've got your orders. What would you like to do?
The ironic thing, we came to talk and bargain, you damned eldritch fool.
The whole... Yeah, I guess I will try to grab Hamish and skedaddle.
Get Hamish
I'll
out of
take
here.
the opportunity.
Hamish, what is your size?
He's a size 50 man, actually. He's not
Size 50. All right, Boothby. What's your strength?
50.
50. All right. Go ahead, roll it. We'll see. Your strength is exactly enough to have a chance to hoist him out of here in a rush.
6.
6.
God damn.
Nice.
No, that's critical.
Brandishing your gun in your right hand, you sprint across the cramped basement. And while you're at it, as you got a critical, you have the chance to kick Baxter's lighter, perhaps in Connie's direction. Go ahead and make a luck check for me.
I am not doing that. I have 4 luck.
4 luck? Well. You kick it and manage to make it move about 30 centimeters, but you're about to turn, pick it up and toss it to Connie, but once again Smythe shouts out, Hamish! Hamish! You sprint across the room as the Shoggoth lurches towards Smythe. Hoist Hamish up, and Hamish, you begin to feel your consciousness stir as you feel Boothby pulling you up into a standing position. The last thing you remember is reaching in, finding Baxter, but then being knocked away. And as Boothby begins to pull you towards the stairs, pull you out of there is something in you that doesn't want to just flee, something that desperately wants to save that man. What do you do, Hamish? Do you let Boothby drag you out of there?
Oh man,
I give you full permission to try to kill Boothby. This is fine. Do not worry about my opinion on
The Lord
this.
is your shield.
Oh, well, with that I can't say no.
You're gonna strain, break away from him, and charge the thing again.
It is distracted slightly, but it's got a lot of eyes, so probably not that much. You call.
I'm gonna let him do it.
Alright. You shake yourself away. You're gonna let him drag you away.
Oh no, Hamish. I'm gonna let Hamish do it.
Let Hamish do it, alright? Shaking yourself fully awake, you pull away from Boothby. He reaches out to grab you. Don't be a fool! He shouts, and then you whirl around and thwack! Give him a right hook to the rib, winding him and giving you the chance you need to run away, to sprint back into the basement towards the thing. Are you going to try to rescue Baxter again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, make me another fighting check. And you get an advantage dice because it is distracted. It's going after Smythe. So you get to roll it twice and take the lowest.
Okay, that's a hard pass.
Hard pass? The Shoggoth gets a regular pass, meaning as you rush towards it, it hears your footsteps at the last moment. Its left shoulder begins to tremble, and another faceless, shapeless appendage bursts out. But this time you're ready for it. You clench your fist and uppercut into the appendage, and there's a sickening squelch. And the tentacle breaks right off the monster itself, dropping onto the floor, flapping uselessly. You thrust your hand back into the creature's body, this time through the back of its torso, and you feel Baxter's shoulders, feel his neck, and you're sure you can still feel a faint pulse. Go ahead, make a strength check, and I will ask Baxter to also make a strength check.
That's a pass.
That is a fail.
That is a fail. Baxter, as your consciousness begins to wane, as the last of your air runs out, you feel something grip your shoulder. You hear a muffled voice, "Hold on, lad, hold on!" And then the blackness swallows you. You pull with all your might. Hamish, as hard as you can, you pull, you feel something give. There's a sickening squelch once again as you wrench Baxter free of the Shoggoth's body. His vest tattered, melting, green acidic sludge eating into his skin. His eyes rolled back in his socket, his tongue lolling uselessly. You pull him, grip him in your arms, and pull him away from the beast. Alright. Connie, you're up. What would you like to do? We'll get to you in a moment, Baxter. I'm going to make this a moment for Hamish. Connie, you see the lighter on the floor. You have to get through the Shoggoth to get through it, but it seems to be fixated on Smythe. That said, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just gonna go for the lighter. Just have a weird moment of bravery and try to go for the lighter.
Alright. Make me a dex or a dodge check, please. And you may do it with advantage because of Smythe.
No, my dex is better, so I'm gonna go with that. So it's... Yeah, so roll 2 D100s and take the lower.
Take the lowest.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So is that a regular pass or a hard pass?
What is... A hard pass.
Hard pass. The Shoggoth gets a regular pass as you sprint between him and Smythe, and as you lower yourself down to your knees and begin to scramble, reach for Baxter's lighter. The Shoggoth lurches forwards, the 3 torso mouths roar, the long pointy tongues begin to flail, and you wrap your hand out around the lighter and roll to the side just as its huge right arm comes down, thumping on the floor, leaving a pool of acid and sludge in its wake. But you're safe. You flick open the lighter, and once, twice, 3 times, the Shoggoth lurches towards Smythe, holds up both of its hands, sticks them together, and the 2 appendages coalesce into one. Raises the appendage above its head. The corpulent flaps of black flesh jiggling as it moves towards you, and it begins to bring the appendage down with a great heave. What would you like to do, Smythe?
I'd like to get the hell out of the way, if I may.
Make a dodge check for me.
And actually, if I can, I'd like to dodge behind a bookcase. I know he values those. We're in a place where he'd smash a bookcase. He values those. That might make him hesitate a bit. 12. That is a hard pass.
That is a hard pass, and once again, he gets a normal pass on his fighting check. You look left, right, spy the bookshelf, the pile of books in front of it, and scramble, hitting the ground, rolling towards the books. His great appendage comes down and stops just shy of crushing the books. Under tow, the Shoggoth hesitates for just a moment. Just a moment. Click! Whoosh! The flame on the lighter ignites. Connie, you light the wick on the candle. Go ahead and roll a D100 for me. 50-50 chance.
Whoops.
It's an 88.
88, do you want to push that?
You know what, yes.
Booyah.
Now to 33.
33. Light, come on, light! Whoosh! The dregs of kerosene in the cradle take. The lantern wick ignites, and as the flickering light of the lantern douses the basement in its light, the Shoggoth stops. Like an owl, its head turns, swivels on its shoulder, and looks towards you. All 5 of its eyes fixated on the flaming lantern wick in your hand. What do you do, Connie?
You can either throw it at it or at the big pile of burnable books. You're gone. That's what I'd do.
I was more trying to think, does Connie know that one of you's in it?
Well, no,
She wasn't there when it happened. Or has everyone been pulled out of it so far?
Baxter's been pulled out, and as far as Connie can tell, everyone else is accounted for.
Yeah. I should try to smash it on it, hopefully light it on fire as well.
So just rush towards it and smash it on it. Alright. Yeah. Go ahead. Make me a dex check or a dodge check.
Yeah, I'm gonna push that. There we go. Yeah, that makes it just a regular success.
Regular success. Alright, here we go. We're rolling for the Shoggoth. 99!
Oh.
Seemingly frozen, fixated, terrified by the flickering, half illuminating, half obscuring lantern light, the Shoggoth barely moves. You run towards it and see its appendage twitch, see it begin to slowly shift on the spot, and then the pupil in each of its eyes grows wide, and all of them instantaneously, silently say, "Oh shit," as you raise the lantern, bring it down onto the mass, and smash! Shatter the glass. The flame instantly takes hold. As Connie backs away, scrambles across the floor and presses against one of the basement walls, the flame surges across the fetid black mass, consumes it. All of the mouths simultaneously agape, screaming in pain and agony, the tongues flailing, the appendages breaking apart, splitting into more and more thin, narrow tentacles that flail aimlessly. The fetid black ooze begins to bubble, begins to roil as the screams get louder and louder, and then silence. The Shoggoth takes a single step forwards, and its torso crumbles to dust. It opens its mouths to scream, to say something, and then the body is scattered into dust. Dust that burns away in the flames. The only sound left, the crackling fire, the hissing, the long, slow hissing. The Shoggoth's body being reduced to dust.
We need to leave now.
Hamish kneels in the corner of the basement, Baxter's broken body in his arms. Baxter, You have just enough energy to peer up into Hamish's eyes, to recognize that he has pulled you free, but every fiber of your being is engulfed in terrible pain. You're struggling to draw breath. Blackness eats at the edges of your vision. What are your last words?
He's going to quip that they should have left.
Should have left. Should have left. Ah. Hamish, how do you comfort this dying man as he takes his steps from this world?
He would just look him. He would just like hold him, and he would just say, "Rest now, just rest now," and yeah.
Takes
let him go.
Takes one more breath, one last rattling breath, and Baxter is gone. His hands loosen, and his bat clatters to the ground. Everyone okay down there? Comes a voice from up on the stairwell. Constabulary! Constable Nathan Birch! I've been told there's out-of-towners here!
That's correct. There's been a horrible accident.
The fire's still burning, or did that go out?
Couple cinders left, but they choke in the dust of what was once the Shoggoth, and as Constable Nathan Birch steps down into the basement, brandishing his shotgun, cocking it, the
revolver is holstered, by the way.
The last flames die, and the constable sees the four of you in the room. Baxter's dead body cradled in Hamish's arms, and the big pile of ash and scorch marks on the floor. Takes a breath, lowers his shotgun, looks you each in the eye, a grim look on his face, and he says, "Go. Get out of Innsmouth. I'll take care of things here. The Order's gonna be after you."
Thank you. Come, bring him. He says, nodding to Baxter. We're not leaving him here.
As you pass by Constable Nathan, he turns once more, looks at you, and he says, "Your friend in the doctor's clinic, Mr. Harden, he's with you, right?"
Yes. We'll need to pick him up.
Doctor explained over the phone. I had some men, sent them round, took him into protective custody. I'll get him out of town, if you'll trust me.
Smythe nods and reaches into Baxter's pocket, pulls out the journal of the two thugs, hands it to him. You'll find those men you're hunting. The blackmail plans were in here.
Jake's,
Along with a few other
Lanier,
admissions. Yep.
we'll pin this on them. The Order won't like it, but, well, Order ain't about to murder Senior Constable of the police department, at least not right away. But you've already taken a step into this. You've already waded into the pool. You get out of town tonight, but the Order ain't gonna forget you. You're gonna have to see this through to the end, understand?
Oh, I've never understood it better.
Strides over to the pile of books. Rifles through them. You hear him muttering under his breath. Yeah, it's just as I thought. He extracts something from the pile. It looks like a stack of yellowed papers bound together with a black ribbon. You're based in Arkham, aren't you? He says.
Oh, yes.
I've wanted to get at the Order for quite some time, but me on my own and the Doctor, we ain't got a chance. But I've sent word up the chain. Here there's people in the government starting to turn an eye towards this, starting to investigate strange going-ons in this town. Things are starting to turn. If anyone can stop them, if anyone can find out how to strike at them, put them in the ground once and for all, you can. He presses the stack of papers into your arms. Take this. Looks like Mr. Rawls was doing some translation work for the Order. Working on a book called Monsters and Their Kind. Look of it. Things riddled with mentions of Deep Ones and Dagon and Shoggoths and magic spells. Make use of it. 'Cause when they come knocking, and fate will come knocking, you're gonna need every little bit of help you can get. And with that, we'll leave the session here. Congratulations! Some of you survived.
Baxter. Gone too soon.
Poor Baxter.
Poor Baxter. Boothby will immortalize him in a book one day. So, for
Boothby lives that long.
killing the Shoggoth, you each earn 1d12 sanity.
Can you go above your starting value?
You can. It's only capped by your Cthulhu mythos. For saving Willie Harden's life against all odds, you gain 1d6 san. And finally, for making a friend in the town, for learning that at the very least, Constable Nathan Birch is working against the cult, that wheels are in motion, and that you just have to find a way to make that final push. The end is in sight for you. Have another d6 san. Anyone who's below 10 luck
Sure.
earns 2d20 luck.
Jesus.
The rest of you make a luck check, and if you fail, 1d10 luck.
So if you're below 10, it's just straight 2d20.
A straight d20 if you're below 10. If you're above 10, make a luck check, and if you fail, 1d10. You each get 3 skill boosts, so that is pick any 3 skills, or 3 the same, and increase them by 1d6 each. And you each gain 1d10 Cthulhu Mythos skill. You can see it now. You can see the end. It's in sight. For Ruth and for Baxter, you'll see this through to the end. You leave Innsmouth today, survivors, victors over your first contact. But not for long. Return to your normal lives for a moment, until fate deigns to drag you back in one more time into the terrors of Innsmouth, so that you can end this, find a way to strike against the heart of the cult. and make sure they trouble nobody ever again. You also get a copy of Monsters and Their Kind, or at least a partial translation of it that Rawls was working on. You didn't destroy his books, and so you get that as a reward. And anyone who wishes to translate it may do so, taking the Stay on the Case action. I will ask, though, Hamish, Smythe, Connie, Boothby, when you return to Arkham, there's a wife and 2 children that will never see their husband and father again. You've never met Baxter's family. You have no personal stake in this, but their address and phone number is there in his pocketbook. What will you do? Will you simply let the mystery be? Think that it's better they never hear from him again? Or Boothby?
Boothby's gonna send an anonymous letter. And it's gonna be fairly short, just kind of explaining that Baxter's not coming back. And he will put a very large amount of money, like send a check as well.
Lord Smythe will match that amount.
And Hamish, do you offer prayers?
Yeah, he passes the prayers around.
Thoughts and prayers. Is there a particular
Prayers for your
Bible?
trouble.
Is there a particular Bible verse that you enclose in the letter for them?
Oh, not that I've Googled at this point in the session.
Just give them
Something
the old
about righteous men leaving too soon, perhaps.
I think we'll leave it there. As old acquaintance comes to an end, next time, the start of our final scenario for the campaign, the titular escape from Innsmouth. Will it be you who sees the town fall? Or will you simply join Baxter and Ruth? More lives lost. Meaningless. We shall see.
We fade in on a small office. Barely enough room for a single desk and a chair. A single beam of moonlight filters through the window blinds, illuminating the desk. Coated with reams of paper, folders, and plastic bags containing large gold coins, engraved upon them the symbol of Dagon. Behind the desk is a door, frosted glass window, and stenciled upon it are the words, William Harkin. Agent Harkin himself sits at the desk. In his right hand, he clutches the receiver for a telephone. I see. So Rawls was not with the Order at all. An infiltrator, as it were. The voice of Constable Nathan Birch replies on the other end. If he was with the Order, not all of them liked it. He was no child of Dagon. At least they're human, in some respects. Rawls was... Well, if you read the statements, Lord Smythe, the way he describes it, there was barely any humanity in him at all. Taking it all in, Harkin leans back, his chair creaking under his weight, under the weight of many sleepless nights. Yes, and somehow these people, this Lord Smythe, this Boothby, the son of a department store owner, somehow they managed to confront him and survive. As he talks, Harkin's right hand fumbles, in the breast of his jacket, withdraws a gold-plated lighter. It's almost the exact same model as Baxter's, the one that destroyed Raw's once and for all. He fumbles over his desk, extracting a cigar box, taps out a single cigar, and lights it. Somehow, maybe the priest was right. They had a priest with them, you know. Maybe the Lord was on their side. But they've dealt the Order a huge blow, regardless of whether or not Rawls truly believed in the Order's cause. He was quite valuable, it seems. All the materials we recovered from his place of residence, you'll find them most interesting. It seems that Marsh was making use of his knowledge, unnatural knowledge, to catalog the deepest secrets of Dagon. The constable takes a deep breath on the phone and then continues. We managed to pin it on Jakes and Lanier, the two enforcers of the Order. And then, would you believe it, after all that, they up and left town. Took one of Raws's books with them, a partially translated copy of Monsters and Their Kind. Now they're sitting on a gold mine. They know what they're dealing with. They know who they're dealing with, and they've got a collection of documents that just so happen to detail everything they'll need to deal with them. You see what I'm getting at? The federal agent takes a long drag of his cigar, exhales, filling the cramped, moonlit office with a haze of smoke. I think I do, he says over the phone. We've been needing someone who knows Innsmouth like the back of their hand, someone who's fought the Order before and is willing to do so again. They could be useful. This could be exactly what we've been waiting for.